evening, everyone, and welcome to another fantastic night of Fandom Access.
Hello.
The whole gang's here.
Hey, how are you?
Jamie, Arts in the chat.
I got a little noise. I got to close my window because you guys can always hear the street noise outside my house here.
I don't think it matters if the window's closed or not at where you live, Karen.
Like,
You always hear the fire trucks and the ambulances.
I know, a block from the hospital. How is everybody? How was your week of TV watching?
good.
Better than some weeks.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, pretty good week. So we got a chock full show. I think we got some visitors in our chat. Already got some people streaming the show.
Yep.
What do you guys want to?
What are we starting with?
Whatever you like.
You want to do Orphan Black first?
Let's talk about Orphan Black.
Okay, give me 1 second. Well, you guys start. I'm trying to tweet. I always forget to tweet until we get on, and then I'm like, shit, I didn't do it. I'm bad anymore at social media. It's all gone downhill. Let's just put it that way.
We'll do a little Orphan Black chat. I'm looking forward to talking about this because there were multiple times in this episode that I was like, what the hell is going on? Did I miss something? Did I miss a whole episode in between? Did I black out on what happened last week? I was like, what? And then I was very distracted by Uncle Felix's grit.
I was very excited. I saw him. When he walked in, I was like, holy shit. I was like, Fee. And then as the episode went on, when they were in the bar, I was like, he looks ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the old age makeup in this episode.
I mean, I think it's not the greatest old age makeup, but I feel it's kind of like Tatiana's wigs, or even like the wigs in The Americans. You're like supposed to see it and enjoy it, maybe, right? Like we all know he didn't age 30 years.
But it's like, you know what though? It's very Felix though.
It is, but it's a little
always
distracting at the same time.
He's always over the top.
Yeah. So, how'd you guys, Jamie? You've seen the whole thing, right?
Yes.
All right.
So I was trying to think. I want to say I feel like not other than the whole fee thing. We don't necessarily learn a lot because a lot of it is kind of her trying to get information in this episode. Would you agree with that? I'd say a lot of it's just kind of like her interrogating the girl and trying to figure Jules and trying to figure out what's going on, while meanwhile the people that work for Kira are after Lucy, although Kira is not wanting to hurt her, which they clearly are. So and we also see that Kira has a son in this one too. I think those are kind of the main points. But yeah, I mean, I like this one. I think it was a little slow, at least compared to the first one, but I still enjoyed it.
Well, Lucy is awful at abductions.
Yes, this is true.
But then again, she's not exactly supposed to be good at it. So
yeah. I like the two of them together, though. I think that they did a good job with casting. And I like the two of them together. Her playing her younger self. They're not clones, so it's kind of trying to like how do you word that? But yeah.
Well, they're not clones, but they're the same.
They're still the same person, right?
They're the same printout.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, yes and no, because Lucy was printed like 2 years ago as a full adult, right? And
yeah.
We don't know that yet.
Well, she can't remember anything.
Well, she has a dream coming out of the tank. They showed that.
But she also has a memory of looking in a mirror and seeing Jules's face.
That's true.
Yeah, but she could have implanted memories.
That's very true. What I'm saying is we don't know anything yet.
All right. I think they're not exactly the same person in the same way that in Orphan Black, the little girl, what was that little girl's name that Rachel was raising? Charlotte?
Yeah.
Charlotte, yeah.
Charlotte was a clone. I mean, well, yeah, she was a clone, but like 20 years later. Like all the Sarah Manning clones were the same age, were kind of cloned around the same time, right? And then the Charlotte clone was, but yeah, they were the same because like Charlotte Manning, I mean Sarah Manning was a clone, but she was like born of a human woman as an infant and grew up to be a person, right? Like Lucy maybe was printed out as a grown woman.
That's what we're assuming, yeah. But we don't really. AJ's right. We don't really know that. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, there were like some. I guess maybe I watched a lot of TV this week, and so maybe I kind of forgot where we left off last week.
With her kidnapping Jules, I think that was the end of the first week, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then Jules winds up tied to a chair this week. So
yeah,
I'm like, wait, how? I don't remember. I didn't really remember Lucy bringing Jules inside the rehab guy.
We don't see that.
Okay, good.
We see it all happens in this episode. Jules runs away. We see her chase after her, and the next thing we see is Lucy going to the rehab guy saying, "Hey, come here, I need your help." And then we see her tied to the chair. They don't show us the whole shopping spree and tying her to the chair part.
No.
They just tell us it's exposition.
Yeah.
But even Craig says they seem like the same person because she's a brat, but I mean, she has a right to be, granted, she was kidnapped, but I just mean she's got like a foul mouth and she does seem like Lucy. She stabs her at one point. And yeah.
I mean, she stabbed her because that's what you do when
I know. I said she
kidnaps you
to do that,
right? Like when a nutcase kidnaps you and ties you to a chair, of course you find a weapon and stab them to escape, right?
Yes. Although why she fell for her going into the bathroom is beyond me. Like that was such like an obvious, I'm going to try to run away or I'm going to try to kill you type of thing.
Oh, it's the oldest trick in the history of television.
Yeah, which actually kind of made it funny and made it work because she did that. But but she's determined to find out what's going on and she thinks that this girl is part of it. But it seems, and again, we don't know because, and saying this as if I hadn't seen the rest of it, because clearly I know what happens to things.
Yeah.
But when we watched the original series, like there were, people that were in on it that we didn't know were. So I feel like you don't necessarily know at this point if the girl's being truthful. I feel like you think she is, but whether she is or not is kind of, you don't really know what's happening yet. I feel like with a lot of it, like a lot of it's still you trying to figure it out as Lucy does, is what I would say.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely legit that Jules has no idea that she's
okay. I didn't know that you kind of felt like that, or it's just because I know what happened.
Well, I think it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty. I think it's pretty obvious from when we see her by herself.
That's true. Because she's with her brother.
When she calls her quote unquote grandfather, who's an actor.
I forgot about that. That is in this one.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious she has no idea, and I don't think Lucy would know if she didn't escape and learn the stuff she learned,
That's true, yeah. And because the other thing is that this girl doesn't have memories either, but she's been told that she lost them because she was in a car wreck and that's what her parents got. So she's been, we assume, lied to, and
I was a little surprised. So there are limited photos available. I don't know photos of like, Jules has this family that they say they don't know anything about her. She's got a sibling who is also adopted, but not a clone as far as we know. And that, so the part when it becomes clear that the grandfather's truly an actor, that they're all really kind of actors, and they I was a little surprised that that's given away in episode 2. Surprised and encouraged, right? Like when things you think are going to be the mystery turn out to not be the mystery, maybe that's because there's a better mystery.
Well, I think we're going to get information a little quicker because for the creative team to try and pull the same tricks on us as they did during Orphan Black, it's kind of insulting, So I can understand them letting us see right away that Grandpa's an actor, because we already went through this with Donnie and everybody else, in
Yeah,
Orphan Black.
watch reminders, watchers. Yeah.
You're not gonna get us a second time. It's pretty, it's gonna be pretty obvious to us, because, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they have new viewers, but I got to believe most people that are watching this are probably, Orphan Black fans to begin with.
Yeah.
There's going to be new mysteries that we have to figure out.
Yeah.
Like why Kira thought it would be a good idea.
Well, I mean, we had that whole other Kira thing where Uncle Fee comes. Oh, look, there was this behind the scenes shot of Fee getting his makeup put on, of Jordan Gavaris getting his makeup put on, which I had to show that. But Uncle Felix shows up. This is what he's wearing when he first shows up, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like he hasn't seen Kira in a long time. It sounds like he might not know what she's really up to. He convinces her to go out with him to the bar. And Kira, like, it was disappointing, this whole bit where Kira's like, I want to get some cocaine. First of all, I can't the child of Sarah Manning doesn't know how to find drugs. And she's got this thing where she thinks if she gives the rats cocaine, it will speed up. She's cloning neurons, but she needs to speed whatever. And you see Sarah, you see that she's cutting corners. Kira's like, well, I can't apply to the medical whoever to use cocaine. I need permission for a Schedule 2 drug or whatever schedule it is. And then I'll have to file reports and people will be asking what I'm doing. And so I don't want any attention on my super creepy experiment. So let me, right? That all was a little disappointing. And yet, of course, has to happen or we won't have a show.
Yeah, I think it was really funny though. When they're at the club,
Yeah. And it turns out she has this grown son who's a Quaker.
Yeah.
Right. I think that was in there only so that Jordan could call it so Fee could call it a cult. It's like, I heard you joined a religious cult. He's like, no, I'm a Quaker.
Yeah.
I wonder what role this kid has to play. Who's Kira's ex? Who's his dad? Right. It's her ex. She's not with I don't know. That was kind of interesting that they threw a kid in there. I thought. I don't know. But that was kind of a fun thing. I don't know if this is a cameo or if he's going to be if Fee is going to be around a lot or if he's just dropped in for a visit. It'd be fun to have him stick around as maybe sort of a moral voice to be Kira has said oh, after my horrible childhood, it's hard for me to talk to mom and I don't really see her. And they're kind of ignoring the part where in the if you listen to the podcast, she Kira has a big clone club adventure in the podcast.
Yeah, which is why I was saying before, after everything that happened in that thing, it's kind of surprising she did all this.
It is, right? And it, that she is still going down this road. It might be, I don't know if he's going to stick around as sort of a moral conscience and a reminder of the past, or if there's a cameo, but it sure was fun to see him.
Yeah, definitely. But like I said, I enjoyed the scene of them at the club trying to get the cocaine. I thought that was so funny because they just come adults coming in trying to get it. It was funny.
Yeah. It was funny. So I guess, so I think you're kind of right that this is an episode, Jamie, where there were a lot of pieces moving around, things were revealed but it wasn't huge. Some stuff was revealed, right? And we had a scar comparison where, doesn't that hand look creepy? Where, Lucy's Lucy and Jordan have the same, Lucy and Jules have the same scar. Because I guess if you're a clone, here's the thing. If you are printing a character, if you're printing out a live human being, why would you give it a scar? Couldn't you
I
make
can't. I can't answer that. So
because it's going to be a thing, yeah. But
yeah, I can't answer that. So I'll just
yeah, fair enough. So yeah, I wish I had more to say about this. I thought it was just an okay episode. Actually, I didn't think it was that okay. So having Fee show up was great. But other than that, it wasn't that great. And I'm already sick of there wasn't a picture of them, but I'm already sick of Lucy's boyfriend and his daughter, his child. Charlie. Charlie, I don't know if I should say daughter, the child, Charlie.
She says
Char-
he says daughter.
He says
yeah.
daughter.
Oh yeah, that's what you're. Yeah, I didn't know that what you're asking. Yes.
I don't know if Charlie uses she or they, I guess, but is still daughter.
I think they say she at one point. I'm pretty sure.
That storyline is a little, I don't know. I get that you have to give Lucy loved ones and a life that she wants to have so that she's got something to fight for to like get away from being a clone, whatever these people are, right? Like she's got to have something in her life, and I get that. But they're a little boring. And one thing that I guess is getting me about this show is like she's telling everyone, like everybody she knows, she's like, oh, by the way, I was printed out. And no one is like, what the hell are you talking about? Please let me call like a doctor for you. Right?
Let me, and there's one thing I think about that, because I thought about that too, but you have to remember one thing. In this world, 30 years in the future, everybody already knows there's clones. So that part is like, everybody knows. That's not like a hidden thing now, because that was in the whole audio series. But also they explain that like Kira has made and printed, which they actually do now. They are starting to do now, can print organs and stuff. She does 40, print. Well, they call it 40 in here. I don't think in real life they call it 40, but 40 printing of organs and different things like that. Like that's already a known thing. So I guess probably it's not as, I don't know. Like we wouldn't believe it now, but I guess it's a little bit more easier to believe when there's already clones and things like that, and people getting implants and organs and everything else all the time through that. You know what I mean? Like it would make it a little bit more believable, I feel like.
Yeah. So, okay, that's a good point. Like I had forgotten about that like in the podcast series, it's all over TV. They're like, holy crap, cloning is real. And the whole country and world knows about it. And there's like tons of self-aware clones and it's a thing. And I forgot about that, Jamie. So that's a really good point to bring about.
It wasn't in this series. It was in the audio series. So if people read it, you might realize it.
Yeah. And you shouldn't really have to listen to that to understand the show. So I think maybe in these two episodes, it has not been made clear that cloning is like a known thing.
I wish they would have mentioned that, because I was thinking that
I didn't
when I was watching it.
I didn't listen to the podcast, so I didn't know that either.
Yeah. See,
the audio series part, a big part of it is about people finding out they're clones. That's basically the plot of it. So.
Yeah. Huh.
Oh,
maybe
what do you guys think about the fact that Jules didn't have a barcode, or do you think maybe she should have checked her other arm?
She should have checked her other arm, but I mean, don't know that necessarily means
she should have checked her other arm or some other part of her body, and not like assumed that everyone has it at the same place. But it's possible Jules might not have one. Like it's possible that Lucy might have it for another, I don't know what reason it could be. But yeah, I was like, really? You just check this one little part of her arm and you assume that's it? Like, come on. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So
all right.
But again, I agree with you too. That doesn't necessarily
mean we don't really know what the barcode is for.
Right. I mean, who knows? Maybe they barcode when they get older. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
for some other purpose or whatever. Yeah.
All right. So.
Alrighty.
What's next?
Okay. So what I'm thinking is, why don't you guys talk about Lazarus or House of the Dragon, whichever one you think won't take as long, And I'm going to go compress because I did want to because I got permission to air it, but I didn't realize you couldn't upload the whole video on here. It's not letting me do it. I have to clip the video. I wanted to air part of John Fawcett's interview for Orphan Black that I had done last week. It was on my birthday. Yeah, that was last week. I had to think about it. I was going to take a clip from it so we could play it. I mean, it is up on the the website and stuff, but I wanted to put a clip on the podcast.
That's good.
So you guys talk about, I don't know, one of the two that I haven't seen, and I'll go off and edit it, and then I'll come back and we will premiere it after when you guys are done talking about the next show.
Okay, I would love. Yeah, I'd love to talk about the Lazarus Project, AJ.
Okay, I will be back.
We have another guest in the chat, Hope.
Hi, Hope.
Hello, Hope. And she's trying to match voices to names. Well,
I was
the
gonna
guy's voice is AJ, so that should be pretty easy.
Liz hasn't been on here talking, so I think she's mixed up. But yeah, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Karen. And then your Liz, I guess, is in the chat, maybe is what you mean.
Arc is Liz.
Yeah, that would be Arc.
Arc is Liz.
Yeah, Arc is Liz.
Well, we just outed someone, but hey. If Arc is trying to hide and lay low, sorry, now your name is out there.
If she's trying to hide and lay low, she's doing a bad job of it because other people that have come into the chat.
She knows the people in the chat, so that's why I figured it. Usually she's talking to them. So, all right. Anyway. Well, I will be back.
So, AJ, my summary of the Lazarus Project this week's episode is George and Sarah are both terrible, but George is the worst.
Yes,
but George is
too. I was going to say the same thing. My first thought was George isn't just the worst; Sarah's the worst too.
These two should not be allowed to time travel. And
but they deserve each other.
They deserve each other, but they're also making the whole argument of why Wes wants to destroy all time travel. And the whole.
I'll say one thing though: what happened happened, because if you remember in season one of the resets that we saw, we see that scene where George comes across her and she's like, "Oh, we met this morning," and he's like, "I must have a concussion because I don't remember that." Now we know why.
We saw that last season?
Yes. That was one of the meetings that we saw between them.
Wow. Interesting.
Where the hell did you know?
I guess because technically that's in their past, right?
Yes. So that tells me that this whole time travel thing always happened. So what happened happened.
Okay, but still, these two already can't be George already can't be trusted with the reset. He set off a nuclear bomb, or and killed 16 people to try to get the reset back to have Sarah in his life. And now he's time traveling, and this is why Wes sent Ross back in time. Had Ross try to not back in time, in 2012. She had Ross. I mean, huge reveal that she had Ross and Janet try to wipe out the scientists, right?
Yeah, I mean, Ross was kind of obvious. I did not know Janet was part of that.
No, and the irony that Janet, then the people that she was sent to wipe out, the survivors, end up kidnapping her and sending her back in time.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was some crazy mess there.
So here's going to be the whole, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on with now I forgot the guy's name.
I want to call him Branson.
The
that
one,
guy?
Yeah, that guy. The one Becky is holding a gun on, and he apparently bloops every time George goes somewhere.
Yeah, his name is.
What's going on with that? I can't remember. Is it Bryson? I feel like it's Bryson.
It is Bryson. It is Bryson.
I knew his name last week. I can't remember it this week.
I don't have a picture of him because TNT is so they don't put anything up on there. They're only, as I keep saying every week, there's only season one.
Yeah, this episode. See, and this is another. I mean, I don't. We don't. Well, I don't know. I feel like the time travel rules have just been established in this episode, and now they're going back to 2012, which I mentioned I texted Karen when I watched the episode. I said, "We're idiots. They were trying to go back to 2023 to stop it from being, to stop her from being kidnapped, not 2012. Which whatever their plan is now, nothing's going to go the way they expect it to anyway, because all this happened. So
Yeah.
if Janet doesn't go back to 2012, they don't time travel, and all this. So it's going to be one of those deals where you can't change the past.
Yeah. But you can, but you can't. Like, one of the things I really like about this show is like George. I loved, I guess it was last week where like George, he met Sarah and they got together and he assumes it's fate. And Sarah's like, we met, there were 16 resets. 15 times I wound up with Connor. One time I wound up with you. And like George thinks it was meant to be. It's just the one time. It was just the last time that didn't get reset, right? 16 doesn't get reset. They go through July 1st, right? Which, by the way, we made it. Just saying, yesterday was the reset date, right?
Oh yeah.
Or maybe we didn't make it. Maybe this is the reset. But like, if there was a 17th, 18th, 19th reset, maybe she would have still went with Connor, right? Like, he thinks because it didn't get reset that it was fate, but it's like, I love the idea that it's just like coincident, right? Like, there's George and Sarah.
See, and that's the thing. Sarah should turn around and be like, well, I guess it was fate that I died then, considering that was the last reset.
I mean, George and Sarah to me kind of like represent fate versus free will.
Yeah,
or fate, let's quote Mr. Echo, don't mistake coincidence for fate. George has mistaken coincidence for fate, for sure, right?
Yeah. Well, George is just whatever George wants. That's how George wants it to be, so that's how it is.
George is the most selfish, like, individual. When Archie, I don't have a great picture of Archie. When they go back in time and Archie goes to see Ross. So I was a little creeped out when she was like spying on herself having sex with her dead boyfriend, right?
Yeah, that was
like, funny. He's dead and she's looking in the window and she goes to see him, and I thought she was going to do like a George. I'm like, are you going to try to have sex with him and like whatever? But she actually was trying to get information for the mission, right?
Yeah.
Like Archie resisted what she wants so much she was so devastated when they couldn't reset and get Ross back, right? But she uses the opportunity to get information. George uses the opportunity to, like, I don't know what he's trying to do, to mess around. He's trying to, like... Well,
George is trying to prove... He's trying to prove to Sarah that they belong together. That was his whole thing. Because the conversation they had earlier, him and Sarah, when they were at the safe house, and... he's like, yeah, it's just meant to be. So he's like, any situation, we'll end up together, So that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to prove.
I guess, but what about the part where he lies to her in the bodega?
Well, yeah, I know.
Right? Like you lie to a girl in the morning and you meet her again that night at a party and you're like, oh no, I'm not actually a school teacher. I just made that up so you would talk to me. Like, do you think a girl is going to find that charming or creepy? It could go either way, right? Like, he's gonna be like, oh, I just want to talk to you so bad that I just made it up that I was a school teacher to have something to talk to you about.
Yeah, well, listen, we've already established that George is the worst.
He is the worst, right? He's the worst. So, I texted you a bunch of times in the first 5 minutes about the team where, like, nobody's wearing their seatbelts on the plane and the plane is crashing, and you're like, well, no, then you couldn't have that good slow-mo.
It's more dramatic, yeah.
And then the pilot's name is, what was his name? Duncan?
No, the Dane.
Dane is the pilot. The Dane, right? The Dane is the pilot. And I'm pretty sure he was dead before he landed the plane. Like, he smashes his head on the windshield. He's all bloody.
Well, and no, something comes through the windshield, and he got a shard of glass in his neck.
And then still put the plane down and like applied the brakes, I guess, and landed the plane. I mean, the plane sort of like, it was not a good landing, but it wasn't a crash. I love the reset where they're like, we know what you're doing, and then you think that Rebrov is like holding him at gunpoint, right?
Yeah,
And
he's like, I can't wait that long.
And he's very great. Right. It was pretty great, but and then Becky pops out and shoots the Dane and kills him.
Oh, that part, yeah. But I'm talking about I was talking about the part with Rebrov when they're sitting at the table and they're like, okay, we just have to wait,
6 weeks till the reset.
6 weeks for the next reset, and he's like, oh, I'm not waiting that long. And he shoots everybody at the table.
Shoots everybody, drinks some wine.
Archie's like, don't you?
Yep. I mean, he's also kind of not wrong because the longer you hang around, I mean, even George, like he yells at Sarah for when she carjacks a guy so they can get to town faster. And he's like, don't do that. Every time you do something, it's like you're losing a little part of yourself. And she didn't even kill anybody. She just held him at gunpoint, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it like George to say in the first 5 minutes, oh, like you lose a little part of yourself every time he killed like 16 people and he's killed Shiv like 47 times. He's got a lot of nerve to say that to Sarah, that like you're going to lose a little part of yourself.
Well, he is speaking from experience.
He is, but then like 5 minutes later, he's out there lying to her in the bodega, trying to I felt like he's trying to rig it so that they would he's trying to like rig it so Sarah will get together with him that night, right? I did love the part where it turns out that they're both masquerading at each other.
Yeah.
And then idiot George has drugged himself and left himself on the street to wander. Like, George is so stupid, right? Like, if you knock out not your clone, but your other self, you should like, you don't leave like an unconscious body lying around, right? I hate George so much. I hate George.
And he's the star of the show.
He is. I mean, this really, this kind of was Archie's episode. He was so great in it. I'm really liking Dr. That guy's name is Wes. What's that guy's name? The doctor.
I don't remember.
I can't remember anybody's name ever on any show. His name is Dr. Sampson. And I am liking Dr. Sampson. I love like him, like kind of being along for the ride, and the way he's always he like sort of represents the audience to me. He's a very like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? And
he's also, I like how matter of fact he is, and he's kind of got I love his personality, because someone would be like, hey, you figured time travel out yet? And he's like, oh yeah, it was a piece of cake. Like,
oh yeah, I hacked the time machine supercomputer in one night.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very, I'm liking that guy. At first I was like, why are they dragging that guy around? And now I'm kind of liking him as an addition to the show, for sure. I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like this show is going to start to blow our minds. I really thought that, I like the way they've sort of been setting up like Wes was some kind of really bad person. And I thought Ross made a really good case for Operation Midnight, that, Wes felt that time travel has to be obliterated. It can't be allowed to last. If time travel really happens, like nothing in your life could ever be trusted, and the danger of it. And so like it had to be wiped. It had to be stopped. Right. Like, I get it. I thought it was a decent argument. Like, if it wasn't, and she didn't kill Janet. She sent Janet back. Like, Janet, this whole thing with Janet being in jeopardy is like, came later. But what do you think? Do you think Wes is right? Do you think Wes is just doing her job? Like, Wes has to make the hard choices, kind of, right? Or am I going to yell Wes?
I don't know. I don't trust Wes. I've never trusted Wes. Hell, back in season 1, I kept saying, you know what? Screw us. We all suck. Let the planet die. So I've always felt like the Lazarus Project isn't the good guy. I really don't see that there is a good guy in this. I feel like, yes, the Lazarus Project is stopping the planet from blowing up, and you know, or these like world-ending type of situations. You know, I think one of the things Archie had said at one point, World War II actually went very differently originally. You know, so
COVID, right?
I get it, but the overall arch of it, I don't trust any of them. You know,
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, you know, and here's the thing again. What I mean is Wes not telling them because she knows that she already met all these people in the past. I mean, hell, that might be why she was like, "All right, George, I'm putting you back in the field. You're going on a time travel mission," because she already knows that it already happened, and she already knows that George was in the past. Is that why she let George back on the team?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I feel like we might find out more next week.
Because they're
I mean,
going.
the show's really good though. The show's very intriguing. It's very crazy and it's definitely intriguing.
Yeah. So you know the show got canceled on Sky after season 2?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we
Sky.
doing?
It ran for 2 seasons on Sky. It got canceled, and now it's come over to TNT. So I don't.
TNT's picking it up for a 3rd season. Okay.
Are they?
I'm assuming they're going to. Otherwise, why?
Well, because it's a show that's done that they don't have to pay that much for because it's done. I don't know that they're picking it up, and I don't know, AJ, how it ended. I just know that it got canceled. I don't know if it ends on a cliffhanger or if it ends as a complete show, and then they end it.
Funny.
And then maybe
I didn't know any of that. And you know what? I mean, TNT's owned by Max, so who the hell knows what they're going to do with anything?
I mean, it only ended a year ago. I don't know, like that TNT is the company to spend a lot of money to bring these guys back together, but it did. This is going to be the end of the story at the end of the season, so we got a little ways to go. So I hope it's going to go in a good direction. I mean, Rebrov is a big. I don't know. It's interesting that for Rebrov, they've gone back in time to rescue Janet because Janet is one of their own, and yet nobody else is supposed to like do anything to like. Archie couldn't rescue Ross. She wasn't allowed to do a reset for Ross. George did a reset for Sarah. And we saw how
George didn't actually do the reset though. He tried. He failed.
He tried.
Reset for a different reason.
I mean, he tried to change what would happen to the reset, and then Sarah broke up with him anyway, right? But for Rebrov, they're all like, yeah, let's say. I mean, I get it. Like, it's a little bit different than the reset. Like, she actually was kidnapped and sent back in time. I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes. She was kidnapped and sent back in time to go help people that she previously is sent back to kill. Right? Like she was sent back to kill them in she killed them. She was supposed to kill them in 2012. They kill some of them. Fast forward to 2022, she gets sent back in time to help them before they get killed. Right? Right?
Something like that. Well, somebody changed. Somebody changed their destination. They were only supposed to go to 2023, and somebody changed it to 2012. Only something happened, and they crashed in 2018.
Yeah.
Right before the reset, or actually during the reset.
Yeah. This show is so good that we can't even describe what's happening on this show.
I know. All right, so.
All right.
I don't know where the heck Jamie went, so I guess we'll start doing House of the Dragon.
Okay.
So she reappears.
Okay.
She just texted. She said she'll be back in a second. So.
Okay. Well, we'll hold on to House of the Dragon for a second then. I will tell you that, as you know, Snowpiercer is coming back at the end of this month. And I had the chance to speak with the showrunner yesterday. So we're going to have, at some point soon, we'll get that interview. That was audio only, so we'll get that written up and posted soon. But I had the chance to watch some Snowpiercer, and I watched it all, but I'm really excited to watch it episode by episode with all of you guys, with you two, and also with everybody who's listening to us to watch the final season of Snowpiercer. So that'll be up. And I talked to somebody else. I did another interview, and I can't remember who it was with because you know why?
It really made an impression.
No, it's because my mind got erased by watching 10 hours of Snowpiercer. And I can't remember who I spoke to. Jamie will remember, maybe. Jamie's back, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, there'll be some more interviews going up, and 2 of them I did, and 1 of them I can't remember. Here she is. Jamie, you're not on stage. You're not in the...
She's... I'm sure she'll figure it out in a minute.
She's got to
Maybe
herself.
she hasn't staged herself yet.
I talked to a guy who wrote... What did he write? Oh, The Serpent Queen. So if anybody's watching The Serpent Queen, it's on Stars, and it's the story of Catherine de Medici. And I did not get to talk to Sarah Martin or Minnie Driver, but I did talk to the creative team, the 2 guys who are like the creative team behind it, who started it and showrun it. And that was kind of fun. Sarah Martin is very good in that show. We don't cover it here because it's not sci-fi. I mean, Nostradamus is in it. That's the extent to which it intersects with any kind of sci-fi, right? Because Nostradamus was like truly historically her like advisor or whatever. But I did that. Here's Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
Yes, hi. I think it worked. It's not exactly edited like exact because I had to do it on my computer and I'm used to doing it on my iPad. But I at least got the video. As long as you ignore the part where he's saying about it was spoiler, because when I talked to him, it was obviously before it aired. And usually I cut that out, but I can't cut it out. So
okay.
As long as everybody ignores that part and realizes that doesn't mean it's a spoiler. It just means I can't edit it from here. But other than that, I can put the clip in if you guys want to see it. I was asking him about what he did different stylistically, and we started talking about Fee coming back, which is why at the time it was a spoiler. So
this is good.
Yeah. So obviously now everybody knows Felix is the
elements or whatever.
I loved putting Easter eggs into the show.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of like as wherever I could, it was
elements or whatever.
I loved putting Easter eggs into the show.
Oh, yeah.
Tons of like as wherever I could, it was great. Am I allowed to use spoilers here?
I can edit. I can decide when to post it depending on what you say. So go ahead.
Well, I think, maybe people know that there are certain actors and characters from the original series that are coming back. And that was a really fun challenge. Like, it was really cool to go, what are these characters like now? What have they been up to? And for the actors to come up with the old versions of what those characters, those beloved characters that they created were. And so I think that was a real exciting part of the show. And whenever we could like dip back into Orphan Black lore, I think those are the kinds of things I appreciate. And I certainly know the fans do as well.
Yeah, that part was a lot of fun. So I wanted to ask you, I was trying to think of a specific scene to ask you about. Talk about filming some of the scenes in the room with the pink tank and all the goo and all that, because that's something that stylistically was really, really cool. So talk a bit about that.
Well, it's obviously a lot of design work that went into that, a lot of, planning.
Did that work, guys? The only way I could get it up was I exited out because it kept playing. I'm like, no. Did that work okay?
Yeah, that was good.
My bad tech skills for this. Well, anyway, the full John Fawcett interview, which is edited and looks a lot better, is on scifivision.com if people want to see the whole thing. But that was a little tease there, and it's a good interview. I think it went really well. I enjoyed it, and we talked about how the show's different from the original and things like that. And also I asked him about directing the scenes in the lab with the pink goo, so we sort of talked about some of that they created. So it's a good interview, so everybody can check that out. And I apologize for my bad quick editing skills. It didn't work so well.
No, it's okay.
But there you go. That was for Orphan Black Echoes.
Great. Cool. Well, and while you were away, that was just enough time. We covered the Lazarus Project, so we're ready to take on the next part of our schedule tonight. which I think should be the season finale of Dark Matter.
Sounds like a plan.
That works for me.
Okay. I mean, it was good, and yet it left so many questions uncovered that I like. Starting with like, there's like 1,000 Jasons now stranded in like the Prime universe, right?
Yeah, there's only hundreds.
Okay, only hundreds. And maybe a dozen of them are dead bodies lying around. So, but this episode takes place largely. So this show is so underlit that I can't even like see what I'm posting here until it's posted. But this episode takes place largely, Jason and Jason Prime 1, the main Jason.
Say our Jason.
Our Jason and his family flee, and Charlie just happens to know the security code to his friend's vacation house. And that's largely where this episode takes place, right? They're holed up there. It's a place where they can't be found. And all these other Jasons are trying to find them, including like, look, this is I'm so sick of underlit shows. I can't find what I'm looking for. But the family like hides out here. And there they are in the mansion. And Jason B, bad Jason, B for bad Jason. Another
this whole time.
Well, here he is on the right, like tan coat Jason is Jason B, who like a third Jason comes and like holds him hostage and is beating him up or whatever. And it really is kind of the moment where bad Jason, B Jason, starts to understand what he's done to these people, right? Is he tied up here? No. Like it actually, like a lot of the alt Jasons, Jason, like our Jason, all the alternates of him. Actually, I think it's on. I don't know if it's on Screen Rant or if it's on Vulture. They're calling it the Million Jason Army. And the Million Jason Army, like a lot of those guys, what they've been through, they're kind of like more dangerous and more violent and kind of worse, right? And I feel like this Jason started to really I don't know. I had some problems with this episode because it felt to me like a quick about face that Jason suddenly realized what he'd done to all these guys, right? And like, he never really was sympathetic. Like he says to Jason Prime near the end, he says, "I thought you would love my life." And I'm like, I mean, that really was highly oversimplified and selfish, right? Like,
but that perfectly fits Jason 2's persona. You know? Like he has that cocky ego that says, who wouldn't love this life? Obviously you didn't because you wanted to, find a life with Daniela, but yeah, that's but that fits right in with his his persona.
Jamie, I feel like you've been holding back in the conversation a little bit all season because you had seen it all from the jump. So now you can say anything you want about anything.
Yeah, my main thing is that I was really surprised, and I think I'd said this before, but that whenever they started having all the the versions of Jason 1 and everything come in all at once, and I was surprised by the ending that they kind of were the way they all congregated. I definitely did not expect that, so I will say that this show surprised me with the ending. The way they sent them all away, and I think it worked since where they went is more random, but I'm not so sure that would keep them necessarily safe in the future if one of them decided to come get them again, because they could use the same ways of getting there, I guess. But I don't know, because I don't know if there's plans for a second season or if the book goes further than this.
No, that's it. That's the end of that's how the book ends.
Okay.
That is how the
well, then that works. Yeah,
not to say that Apple can't continue it, but I don't know what they're going to continue it with.
I will just say it is definitely was not what I expected. I was surprised, and usually a lot of shows I'm not surprised. So I like that they did something, or that he did something. I should say, Crouch, the one who wrote it, something unexpected with the show, with all the Jasons, and he kind of also has the tease with Amanda and Ryan meeting up, which is interesting, but I don't know how.
And I said that was I said it. I said that was the same Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah.
So-
Did you see this? I don't know if you saw Ark's one question. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that. And I wanted to talk about that also. Like, I mean, not only when the cops find all those Jason bodies that have been killed and that are identical, like genetically identical, right? Like,
I don't think they're clones. Okay.
um,
Sorry.
and also like how are and like dozens and dozens more of the same Jason who I don't know if they have any ampules to go back in the box and find a new universe, right? Are they all going to just like huge questions that I would love to know more about? Like, what are all these Jasons going to do? Um, uh, they're not. I mean, a lot of them. So this whole part with the chat room, where there was a chat room that was just for Jasons, and
Yeah, scary,
that's what I'm
right?
trying to do. That was just for Jasons, and and some of them were pretty scary, yeah. And some of them were like, one guy's like, "You haven't been through what I've been through, so I deserve her more than you do."
And then
And
some of them are like, "Oh, we could just share her. Like she would be okay with that."
It's funny because I actually made a joke to Artie the first night. I was like, they can just share.
yeah, I mean, they're like, or let's have a lottery to see who gets her, or let's have a sharing agreement. And it's so like, I mean, there's a scene. I mean, there's a part where when one of the alt Jasons has Jason B tied to the chair or tied to the posts in the
Oh yeah, hat Jason.
right, and he says like he says something about like, "Oh, you mean when you like raped my wife?" Which really like it was the first time like our Jason never really put it that way, but that's really like it kind of what it is, right? Like you're not her husband, and is it really? I mean, she's not aware of who you are and what's going on. Is it really any different than if you had drugged her or done something else to her, right? Like that was the first
just
time.
because you look like him doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, and that was like the first time that someone really put it that way. And so the idea that they would share her was the idea that she would agree to it and just be like sleeping with a different man every night because that's what the men agreed to.
Yeah, and why would they even think that? I mean, that's the thing. They all started out as her husbands. You would think, well, no, that's not necessarily true. Are these all versions of Jason 1? Some of them
they're all versions.
Okay, they're all versions of Jason 1. Okay, then all of them were her husband. All of them should know that that's insane, and she'd never go for that. But I guess they're different.
I mean, real quick, so the message board. A fun fact about that. Artie told me that's actually how they did the reveal in the book. Because we've gone through this before, where sometimes a reveal in a book can't be done on TV and vice versa. So that's why our reveal on TV was the gun shop, whereas in the book it was the message board. So it's a little fun fact there. But you have to remember, all these Jasons have been through something different. The only Jason we know is our Jason because we saw him from start to finish. We don't know what warped shit happened to some of these other Jasons, what decisions they made, whatnot. Not suggesting they share their family is a good idea. We're just saying we don't know the person that suggested that. We don't know what they went through. But the bottom line, I mean, this entire show, no matter what happened, who happened, whatever, the whole point of this entire thing is it's about choices.
Yeah.
How in our everyday lives, the slightest little choice can send our life in a different direction. And ultimately, a lot, I called them the good Jasons at the end who went to say, who sent them off and say goodbye, is because they realize those are the Jasons that you're trying to talk about, saying, you know what, I wish it was me, but Daniela chose this Jason, so we're going to respect what she wants. It ended up being her choice in the end to decide. Because how else are you going to decide? I mean, that's the only way it was ever going to get decided, unless they just had a battle royale and last man standing. So
yeah,
and the only reason she chose our Jason because he got to her first.
I
It could have
kind
been
of feel
any other
though-
Jason.
I kind
had
of
they gotten to her first.
question though and wonder though if they don't trust each other, because they all sort of make that decision, or like, we're going to let him go, we're going to let him have her. But if that's the case, why do they have to change worlds? Why doesn't everybody else leave? Why do they have to leave their home, you know?
That's what I thought about too.
That's
But the thing
makes me
is,
wonder.
they only had about 40 ampules and a couple hundred Jasons.
Yeah.
They can't all have the world though. I mean, yeah, there's no way to put them back. It's too bad they can't, like, you know, unite them again or something.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
You can't just kill them all either. So
I mean, I think that Jason, too, he could spend. I mean, we have discussed before that do we think it's possible for him to reverse engineer the serum and make some? And could he send all these Jasons on their way? But where would they go, right?
yeah, because they're all from this universe. So that's a good question. I don't know. I just think it's kind of strange that they're like, well, you guys will leave and find a new place. Like, why do they have to leave? They're not the ones that did it in the first place. They're like the ones that are the innocent part of this, and like they're having to uproot themselves. I mean, I guess that's the only answer. It's just interesting.
I mean, here's Ark's comment that she said like the guy who picked the lottery would lose because she would always pick our Jason. I thought she said that guy would lose because it's a terrible idea, so he's obviously out of the running. But I mean, this is a good point.
No, that was the guy. That was the guy who suggested. She said that about the guy who suggested sharing.
Okay, all right. I mean, would she always pick our Jason? She would, but AJ has a good point. Is it because he got there first?
Yes.
And made the case, and you know, if
But
somebody
I
else,
would hope it's also because it is her Jason, not necessarily for any other reason.
But they're all her Jason.
they're all her Jason.
They're all her Jason.
But
They
they're
just
all her
all-
Jason after they made a different decision, though, because it split from that one point. He was
Right, but
the
but
original,
Jamie,
but we know
but
that.
Jamie,
I don't
our
know.
Jason is
that.
our Jason from the choices he made. At any point, we could have started following a different Jason
That's true. That's true.
because of a decision. You know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean?
gives you lots
Like
of
our
things.
Jason could have decided to sleep with Amanda in the hotel room that night, and then there
just
would be another Jason out
interesting
there who didn't sleep with her.
that they didn't seem to show up until a certain point, though. That's why I kind of assumed.
No, they all showed up at the same time.
all.
We
Yeah,
just
but
didn't
I
see
mean,
it.
let me linearly, they didn't show up to a certain point. Like, you know what I mean? Like they weren't there like a month ago. You know what I mean? They showed up at this point in
At
this
the same
what we're seeing, but it's that point in time. So I kind of assumed that it was all branched off after a certain decision. Does that make sense? Like
All
that's
right.
what I thought anyway.
Because you mean like our Jason got back to his Daniela before the
Yeah, before it split. That was
all
my
the other Jasons.
understanding.
No.
Now, I know whether that's
No,
correct.
no.
I don't know.
They split. They all split at different times. Every decision
Yeah.
that our Jason makes, another Jason splits off that made a different decision.
But
And then
why
when
did
that
they not
difference-
show up to a certain point then?
I don't know. That might be a plot hole. Like, why did our Jason get there first, and then nobody shows up until they all show up on the same day? Like
No,
that makes no sense.
Jason. When I say Jason got to her first, I mean he physically got to her first. Not that he came back to his universe first.
Yeah, you mean because he's the only one who had a genius idea to get himself arrested so he could talk to her in
Yes.
private.
Yes, there you go. Yes,
But
that,
he also appears to have gotten to the home universe first and had more time to like.
We
case
don't-
the
we don't
jury.
know.
That's why I assume they all came
yes,
out.
you know, we don't know that.
Right. They can't have. It didn't make sense.
We don't know that because we see him come through the door, and then the next thing we see is the gun shop, and we think one of them's ours, but neither was ours. And then we see our Jason in the hotel room, and when he comes out of the hotel room, there's another Jason coming out of another hotel room.
Yes, and one of them mentions having been watching the house. Like one of them is like, "I'm watching the house." One of them's in there. They're not home. Blah blah blah. Like we. It's I mean, our Jason wasn't really there that long because we're watching this week by week. It feels like he was there that long, but he was not there that long, right? He doesn't arrive that far ahead, I don't think.
He might not even be the first one that arrived back.
He's the first one that got to her though, because he stayed
Right.
with her. So the
Again.
way you described it was right. Yeah, Ark's saying they all split when Danielle got pregnant. I think all the original Jason split, but all the Jason ones didn't split then.
Yeah.
because that's why it's so confusing.
Yeah, yeah. They all
And that's
split.
why I'm saying linearly, because they didn't show up to a certain point of time. That's why I was thinking that it wasn't until then they split. But you're right, because of the decisions, it had to have been before that. We just didn't see what happened.
Right, we just
before.
didn't
So
see
it's
it.
very confusing. But
So
yeah.
I think some split when Daniela got pregnant, but I think some split post like they
But the
like,
but the Daniela split was like Jason 1, 2, and everybody else, because that's why there was a different Jason in the first place, because he
Yes.
didn't stay with her when she was pregnant. So that was like the original split.
Okay,
These
hold
other
on.
ones came off of the first Jason, right? I
yes,
don't.
these guys
So
split
damn
off.
confusing.
Yes.
This thing makes my head hurt. That's all I
These
gotta
guys-
say. This show makes my head hurt.
These guys
Well-
these guys all split when Jason 2 puts Jason 1 in the box. They had all been in the box. They had all gone to many different universes. They had all
Okay,
tried to
that's
get
true.
back to Daniela. They all yes, some split when Daniela got pregnant and they became different, Jason 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever. But all of these guys split off from the moment Jason goes into the box. And then, as Ark points out, every one of them made slightly different decisions as that time went on, as they were all trying to get back, right? Like,
Yeah.
multiple.
You know what's scary if you think about it? Like, okay, when we originally started watching this show, you think like, okay, even Jason says he understands how Jason 2 could become the way he was. Okay, so we know that Jason 2 became, I don't want to say evil, but did bad things to become who he was. But you have to think about the fact that even all these other ones that split off after the fact, that some of them are nuts, that some of them are shooting people, that some of them are willing to share her. Like, they're not, only one of them seems to be a good guy in the end. It's a little, well, maybe not one, but only so many of them seem to be a good guy.
I mean,
it's a little scary if you
but
think.
see, every one of them believes he's the real Jason.
Yes,
and the
but
rest
And they
one
all
of them
technically
couldn't.
are.
So
I mean,
yeah,
yes,
it's
yeah.
just weird to think about. I don't know. It's a little scary, man. Like I said, it makes my head hurt. That's my takeaway from it. It makes my head hurt trying to figure it out.
So my understanding is, so correct me, AJ, I know that Artie has read the book and told you about it. I read that in the book, it's a showdown between Jason 1 and Jason 2. It is not a third Jason who's trying to kill them and Jason 2 saves them, right? Like Jason 2 has regrets, changes his mind, turns good, and he's like, here, take my car, take this ampule, right? I read that in the book, it's not a third threatening Jason. It's just those two in the culmination of, and he doesn't turn good. And that in the book, Jason 2 doesn't ever like have that realization that he maybe has done something wrong.
I'll take your word for it.
Oh,
Artie and I talked, like, there were certain things he told me about the book, but we didn't get into that.
I mean, I read that and it was on the internet, so it has to be true, right?
Of course.
I read in some interviews that the people in charge, who did I read this interview with? I guess the showrunner, and that a lot of the differences from the book were suggested by Joel Edgerton. That as he played Jason, he had ideas about how they could change it a little bit. And one of them is, so Joel Edgerton is the father of twins recently, and it was his idea to do the Charlie and Max thing. That one twin had died.
That's interesting.
And he had other suggestions on how to like make Jason a little bit different or whatever. So yeah. So you did, Jamie, allude to there were a couple little things so they make the decision to go into the box together, right? Here they are getting in the box. And the only way they can ever be safe is to get in the box, I guess, because all these Jasons are going to stay and maybe more Jasons are still coming, right? Like,
yeah, and they figure this is kind of like a random way they can't find him again, which, I
Right.
said, I don't know that that's 100% accurate, because technically they could have, one of the other Jasons could bring his son. And I mean, there are ways that they could find
Bring
him.
his son from where?
Well, not those
Only
Jasons,
one
but from
Charlie.
the other split universes could. You're right. From the ones that split off of Jason 1, they couldn't. But I'm talking about like the other ones that had.
No.
That's right. No, because only Jason went in the box. So I guess that doesn't.
Yeah.
Unless he went to another universe and grabbed.
No.
What do you mean no?
No.
He could.
Doesn't work that way.
Well,
What? Like
There's-
you're saying, could he go through a door to a universe where Max didn't die?
yeah, and take him and have him make the same decision. I'm saying technically, I wonder if that's possible.
No,
Why do you say
Why
no?
not? Why is that not
because he's
possible? Right?
different. Because it's not it's different from that perspective because they've never been in the box. This Max is going to have totally different thoughts than another Max from another universe that you know what I mean.
I feel like it's extremely unlikely, but it's not impossible.
Why
That's
can't
the way I
Why
look
can't
at
they
it.
go to a universe where
Implausible, but not
where the other child didn't die?
No, that's not what Jamie's saying.
Yeah, no, I'm saying go into a universe where he didn't die, and like he could make the same decisions as Max made. And yes, you're right, he probably wouldn't make the same decision Max made. But I'm just saying, if there's an infinite number of universes, technically I would think there would be a possibility that they could somehow get him to make the same choice or figure out how he made the choice.
Oh my god, you guys are blowing my mind right now.
But all right, Jamie. You know what, Jamie? None of them have any ampules, so they can't do shit.
Well, we
Okay.
don't know that. Do we know none of them have any
Damn it,
ampules?
Karen. Damn it, Karen. You couldn't just go with it, could you?
Just go with it. AJ's like, nope, this is the way it is. No, I get what you're
Okay.
saying. That's why I said I think it's very implausible, but it's not impossible.
They
That's
can't
the way-
stay because there's like a couple hundred Jasons, and so when they go into the box, there's a crowd of Jasons around, and these Jasons have decided to let them go. These are the Jasons who, like, if you
They're the
love
nice
something, these are like, if you love something, set it free Jasons. Like, we love
you go.
Daniela enough to respect her decision, and we're sorry it's not us, but she's made her decision, and we love her, and she picked one, so let her go.
Yeah.
There are presumably, and then one guy's like, wait, why does he get it? And the other Jason, why does he get her? And the other Jason's like, shut up.
And that's like why they're leaving. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
But I have to question though, how do we know he's going to pick a good world? What if he picks like a shit world? He don't know how to do it anymore.
We don't
They
know
have
what
like 40. They have like
Daniela could-
40.
They have 40 ampules, and Daniela could pick.
Yeah.
Well, no, the point was he had to pick because that was how they knew
Right.
that it would be more
All
random.
right, but what I'm
We're getting off.
You're getting off
though.
track. This is all the Jasons that come to like say goodbye or whatever or let them go. That's not all the Jasons. There are
No.
other Jasons, right? Who
Yeah.
still they will never be free of, and more Jasons could be coming, right? They're in theory there could be an infinite number of alt Jasons, right?
Yeah.
Because every decision he makes, and they keep making decisions, and
It's
like
exponential. Yeah.
and they told two friends, and so the only way is to escape. They got to go, right? And they let Charlie pick because I think because Jason said in the previous episode, he's like, he thinks just like me, and also we know Daniela so well that we could figure out what she picks. So that's why Charlie has to pick.
Right. And that's why I said it's like kind of like the most random choice that they can give it, I guess. Is sort of the way.
This is why Ark needs to be here every week.
Why? Because she agrees with you.
Because
AJ
AJ is right.
AJ's right
Alright.
that Jason would never kidnap Max from an alternate world. But plus, if you take the twin, you start it all over again. Yes. Then you have alternate Jasons who are trying to get their son back.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, no, I meant Jason too, though. I didn't mean Jason. I don't know if that was
All
clear.
right, that
Another one.
all right, hold on. The show is all right. So that's
Yes,
the end of
the
the
show is
that's the end of
over.
the show. The whole thing, the whole point of this whole thing, this whole book turned into a TV show is it's about choices. The stuff we didn't find out about and
Doesn't
what
matter.
happens to those other Jasons isn't the point.
Yes. No, you're right.
Okay, let's talk about this.
What?
That we saw Amanda at the end in her world.
Yes.
And at the last minute, now I swear to you that I had a picture of Ryan, but it might have gone away.
It went to the other
Because-
universe.
It went to another universe where we're allowed to upload larger photos to our podcast. But on this, I have a limit. And it rejects big photos sometimes. But she's in this restaurant and hanging out in her nice new universe. And Ryan walks in. And she says, "Do I know you?" And Ryan says, "No, but I've been looking for you." Right? Is that what he says?
Right. That's exactly
Yeah.
what he said.
And I had read somewhere, and now I'll probably never find it, but somewhere there was an interview with the producers that I think said something like that he wouldn't know how to find her, but he found somebody like could follow and find somebody who was from the other. I don't even remember.
How would he know she exists? Because Jason, it was Jason too who kidnapped Ryan and put him there, and he never mentioned Amanda. Like, why would he be looking for Amanda? Or is he just looking for people that are stranded from the universe?
That would be my guess, but let me see if I go to my history if I can find it, because I didn't save the
Like,
now, I kind
didn't
of wondered
see
that
her,
myself, why he'd be looking for her, unless he's put to gotten a job as a scientist somewhere, and he somehow was able to put together something that showed people that have gone through the box have some kind of like pink aura around them, and he's like, "Ooh, a pink aura person."
I don't know.
Let's
I
talk to that.
found it though. Just so you know, I found it. It's from Screen Rant. So we'll give
Oh.
them. It was an interview with Crouch, and this is just the little thing that pops up on Google when you type it in. It says it's from Screen Rant. It says Crouch confirms that Ryan doesn't know this Amanda, nor did he know the Amanda from his own universe. He only reveals that Ryan knew how to look for Amanda because she came out of the box after him. Nothing further can be revealed now. Now this. Granted, I think that's a summary of the article. You know how now when you Google, you get like AI summaries, but that's the summary of what they're saying Crouch said, I think. I didn't scan through the whole interview, but it's coming from Screen Rant. So the point is that's what Crouch said.
I mean, it was nice to wrap it up with a pretty little bow right? It's like a little bow on it that they meet each other, and like they're the only two people who can understand. But it's way too. I mean, it brings us back to the part where AJ last week.
That wasn't an AI summary. That was what's in the article. Never mind.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm just telling you.
Like
they didn't have it wasn't a quote, but it's in their article. I thought it was. I apologize. I thought it was a summary.
All right. So on our show last week or the week before, AJ was like, "No, I'm pretty sure that Jason dropped Ryan in the same universe where the other Jason left Amanda," which is like, wait, I mean, I agree with you, but it's like an incredible coincidence that it happened. And now he found her and he said, I've been looking. It was a nice way to tie it up because we wanted to, like those are two strings that were left hanging. So they tied them together, but not in a way that
necessarily makes sense. No,
it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Not in a way that makes sense.
Coincidence. That's all you need.
And we saw that she has two, those two ampules, like they could go somewhere, but why would they? This looks like a perfect universe for them to stay in, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that happened though was we saw Leighton won, which was crazy that Leighton shows up after we never thought about him after he left and he was having so much fun. And I didn't really think about him. And then he shows up and he's got I don't know what he's got in his hand or on his hand. He obviously has I don't know what he's doing with that light on it. I don't know. We only saw him for a moment there and he showed up. He showed up somewhere. I mean, maybe it was just to show us that he's enjoying himself.
Yeah. And that he's alive, I think is kind of the point.
And we see Blair too finally trying to go home.
Oh, leaving Locust Land or the killer land of the killer flying ants where she lived or whatever. Yeah.
The only one.
I love. That's the one thing I was going to say because I couldn't say before. I love that when Blair showed up in the other universe.
Oh yeah.
And helped him out. That was cool.
This is why ladies carry mace just in case a couple of dimensional
Crazy
clones
Jasons.
try to kidnap you and steal your car.
The only one that I was kind of curious to see what happened to was
Drunk Ryan?
No, Leighton too. I was kind of curious because remember we haven't seen him since episode 2 when he went in the box and was running around going, "Help! Where is everybody?"
Yeah. So we should wrap this up in a minute, but to me, the biggest hole in this entire story. Okay, yes, I agree that this is a way to set them up for a future romance arc, Amanda and Ryan. To me, the biggest hole in the story is the box itself, because the box is always at the same coordinates in every universe. And I mean, I guess we only saw universes where...
Yeah, you guys kept saying, how could he actually shut it? And I'm like, I don't have an answer for that, but I can't really say that. Every time when you guys
I
said
mean,
that.
he can only shut his end of it. He can't,
Yeah.
right?
Because it
Right.
just
Like-
seems to appear when he goes wherever. So we
But,
don't.
but also, how is it that nobody in Chicago ever notices it or knocks it down or builds a house? So, like, I guess they only went to
Perception filter.
universes.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I like that.
Star Trek for the win.
Yeah.
How did you know?
Wait,
how
what
did you
you
not
say?
see-
Did you just say Star Trek?
Perception filter's not Star Trek. It's Doctor
No,
Who.
it's Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
How
Doctor Who
did
for
you
the
not see
win.
that as an answer?
Doctor Who for the win.
Wrong
Yeah.
fandom. Yeah.
But I mean, I guess in a universe where someone like knocks down the box to build a high rise, you just can never go to that universe anymore. I don't know. That's a
well,
whole.
maybe it would just come up in the middle. But well, the one time they open it, isn't there like a brick wall or something when they go through? So that could happen, I guess. I can't remember unless that's the one he blocked. I'm trying to remember. Didn't they at one point come through and there was like it was blocked? I don't know.
Yeah,
It has been so many months since I've seen this. I should have. I wish I would have had time to rewatch it every week. That was what my plan, and then it never happened.
I mean, it was a good show. I do not want to see a season 2. This was a complete
No.
story, and it's
Yeah,
done.
I don't know that you really could. I mean, I think it would be have to be a completely different show, obviously, if there's nothing written. I would like to see another one of his books made into a series, though. I mean, that would be cool.
Well,
But I agree. I
Yeah.
don't think we need a season 2.
Blake Crouch has a lot of stories that can be done.
Yes.
And I mean, once again, I just want to say, like, Apple TV is like had some really good shows lately, right? This is another good sci-fi. Apple TV is becoming like a home for good sci-fi.
Yeah. Speaking of, if we're talking about Apple TV, and I'm looking at trying to look at the date as I tell you guys this, but the other thing is that Show Me is coming out. That I know, Karen, you didn't end up being able to do that one interview, but I did talk to the chick.
It's like it's about a
That's at the
kid.
12.
It's about a kid manifesting powers, learning they're a superhero, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's a story that's been done like a million times, and so like
It's kind
DC.
of interesting, though. It's not what I expected it to be. Like,
Yeah.
his power is different than what I
I
expected.
mean, that's where I was going to go. It'd be interesting to see what another person. It's the same. It's X-Men. It's DC. It's Marvel. It's Harry Potter to a certain extent, right?
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, that's kind of a lot of things, though, to be fair. But yeah. See, I don't think I was trying to say. I guess I don't know if it actually says what his power is. That's why I don't want to say.
that's okay. We'll wait till it comes out.
But it's interesting because it's a lot about. It's not just about the super. I mean, granted, a lot of superhero shows are more about the character rather than the actual power, but it's kind of about how he deals with things that makes it happen and not happen, and how he figures out how to. It's hard to explain without seeing it, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's made to be. I mean, I think it's part of Apple Kids. It's like a young adult series, but I mean, it was pretty good. I liked it.
We'll talk about it when it comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and it comes out later in the month. I think I said the 12th, didn't I? Is that the day I said? I looked it up and then I forget what I said.
That's okay.
Let's
We
see.
get- we'll
Where'd it
move
go?
it.
Yeah, the 12th.
We can look at- All right. All right. So let's talk about the Acolyte. I need to pour some wine to talk about this because this episode was good and like a total
Oh, no.
mess.
Oh
And,
no, it was.
and a disaster at the same time.
It
Okay.
had good points. But yeah, it
I'm
was
over
much
Star
mess.
Wars.
Wait, what? AJ
AJ
over Star Wars. This was a mess of an episode, but
Yes.
most
Huge
of
mess.
the episodes, but except for the part where most of it was a cool lightsaber fight.
Yes,
Yes.
it was very
Yes.
good choreography. I'll give
The
them that.
the fight scenes were amazing. Absolutely great.
But
Loved
they were
fight
the only
scenes.
ones who were surprised who the mascot was. They were the only ones because none of us were. No viewer was, I would hope.
No,
mean,
I was
everybody-
praying that it was not.
yeah,
Because
I
I'm
know.
sorry, I'm tired of it. It's lazy writing. It is just lazy. It's just they keep dishing out the same shit to us time and time again, the same stories. Hey, you like twins? Here's some more twins. Hey, this guy seems like he couldn't possibly be anybody important. Make him the big bad. I mean, it's lazy writing, and it bored me to tears. The storyline is awful. And
I would agree.
and the main cast is not so main because we
I
lost two
was
people.
surprised they killed them. I will say that. I didn't.
I
think
was
they would
very
kill
surprised
both
they
of
killed
them. But that was the only thing I was really surprised about. I'm kind of curious, though. I will say I'm kind of curious what's going to happen with May and Osha. I have to assume Osha's not really dead. I don't think she
They
is.
switched.
They switch. Well, they definitely switched, but I'm saying I don't think Osha's dead. She left.
Why would you think she's dead?
Well, they didn't really show her
It
being
was
alive.
not clear.
Yeah.
She had a bad injury and she kind of looked dead. He rolls her over. I mean, I think she's not dead. Why would she be dead? The whole point is that they're twins and they've
Yeah.
switched. But I think that they were trying to give you some ambiguity. Could she be dead? And then
Although it's quite clear Basil knows it's not her and is going to reveal it because we aren't surprised at most of the stuff in there, which it is.
See,
it is lazy. Ark agrees it's lazy, right?
Ark agreed with me again.
I mean, we thought the writing, it is canned, and also the actual writing is bad. Like, I mean, in Star Trek, the writing is sometimes bad because they don't speak the way people speak to each other, and they don't speak to each other at all. Like, so
but
much
the story is bad here. It's not just
the story is bad.
Wording. It's the whole idea. Yeah, but it was a lot of good choreography. I have to give them that. It did look
the
good.
fight scenes of this fight. And you know what? But that's been true of Star Wars for a while now. Not all. I mean, there's been some good storytelling, but the fight scenes and the visual aspect have always been
good.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say though, this was really great. Watching this actor here play, his scenes.
Manny Jacinto. The character, the guy's named Manny Jacinto. He's great.
Were great.
Except for the continuity with his hair. Did you notice his conversation?
And Basil. I like and I forget her name. I'm sorry. The one of the girl that got killed. I liked her.
Oh, Daphne Keane. She played Jackie. I mean, I agree. Manny Jacinto is great, and I wish I had a picture of just his arms because that guy is jacked.
We knew he was human right away. You could see his arms, but
I did notice when he was speaking to Soul and they're talking back and forth with every shot, his hair hanging in his face was a little different. We had a little hair. His hair was like its own character doing its own thing. But
it's funny. During some of the scenes after him and Soul, they would talk and then they would fight and they would talk and they would fight. At one point, I got to the point where I looked over at Artie and I said, "Is it wrong that I'm rooting for the Sith?"
Yes, that's a problem.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that happened so Soul says to him like, "You're a Sith," or "Are you a Sith?" or whatever, or he says, "What are you?"
What are you?
He says, "What
are you?" He says, "What? Who are you?" And he says, "I have no name. I'm what you call."
He says, "You would call me you might call me a Sith, or I'm what you would call a Sith." But like, so that kind of like, do you think he's a Sith? So at this point in the Star Wars canon, the Sith has not been seen for like 1,000 years, and the Jedi don't really believe the Sith exists. The Sith is like a legend, like a folktale, right? So, like, is this the recurrence of the Sith? Is he not a Sith? Is Sith really a thing, or is it more? I read this article on. Oh God, I hate when I can't credit another writer. I'm not taking credit for this. I'm going to look this thing up, but. Is the Sith more like
Ark already watched tonight's? Don't tell us.
I think it was on Den of Geek, maybe, where they were talking about like, is the Sith a thing, or is the Sith just a derogatory term that the Jedi use for everybody who won't do the thing, they won't follow them? Like the Jedi believe that it's our way or the highway, and if we're going to come in, when you're a kid, you want to live with us and do the Jedi way. Otherwise, like. There's no other way to develop the Force. And so they're at odds with the witches, and they're at odds with, so the Sith really also have this thing that there can only be two, right? The Sith have that rule of two, which ensures that there's not a whole lot of Sith around. And that the Acolyte will always slay the master. So I guess where I'm going is like, do you think he's a Sith? And so my picture got deleted, but Disney had a photo where they showed the helmet from the back, and it has that flare out thing that Darth Vader, how Darth Vader's helmet like had that collar sticking out at the back kind of? This helmet has it. And the second thing I want to say is, AJ, there was a bunch of speculation. Is this helmet seemed to be impervious to a saber? And
yeah, because what's his face picked it up and the lightsaber hit it. I noticed that.
is it
There
Beskar?
wasn't like-
It cuts them out.
Is it Beskar steel or is it another kind of steel? Because a saber should cut through metal.
Now, is it weird, again, because I haven't seen enough Star Wars to know, is it abnormal that, like, his lightsaber could, like, cut through, for lack of a better way, the other lights on the lightsabers and, like, make them so they don't work? Was that abnormal? Because
No,
it
that
was-
was because no.
That's
That was
abnormal.
because of the helmet. They were hitting his armor with the sabers and shorting them out. Even his got
Nope.
shorted out
Oh, okay.
when
I thought he hit them with the saber. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I missed that, I guess.
and
I'll put that comment back up in a minute. So you think it's the Beskar or whatever this is?
whatever
made of?
whatever that is. I don't think Beskar can stop a lightsaber because I've seen lightsabers take out Beskar before. so.
Jamie, I don't know if you know, Beskar is a kind of metal that the Mandalorian's armor is made out of, and it comes from like their planet, and it's a very special kind of armor that's much stronger than regular metal. Beskar, whatever this is, it's stronger than Beskar. I have read online some comments that there is another kind of metal. Like all the Star Wars books and comics are mostly canon, and that there's another kind of metal in those books or whatever. But it definitely is a kind of metal that like a lightsaber should cut through normal metal, and it didn't cut through this Venom helmet that he wears.
This Venom helmet.
The helmet's the coolest thing in the whole show so far. Right? The helmet is cool. It's pretty scary. All right, so Ark thinks he is a Sith, or what came before the Siths, because we're 100 years. He's like the
Well,
reemergence.
but Siths have been around for longer than this 100 years. Like Siths,
Oh,
they
of
say
course.
Siths haven't been around. They say, oh, actually, I got another gripe. So in Force Awakens, yes, no, not the Jesus Christ. Phantom Menace. Phantom Menace, one of the Jedi Council members, Mundi, says the Sith haven't been around for over 1,000 years. Okay. So he says himself, he's like, I don't consider, like, basically he's saying, I don't consider myself a Sith, but that's what, if you want to label me, that's what you would call me.
Yes, because
So he's not before what was a Sith. Siths are a thing, which is why he said, you might call me a Sith, but he doesn't consider himself to be a Sith. Because I think he doesn't have the ideology of a normal Sith. But here's my gripe about Mundi. He's in this show.
Oh, as a youngin, right?
Yeah, but he hasn't been born yet.
Because he'd have to be over 100. Well, when is in the Phantom Menace?
Somebody didn't do their research and included a character who isn't going to be born for another 30 or 40 years.
I don't have a picture of him.
I don't think you have a picture of him.
I had a lot of other pictures that were rejected.
And the funny thing is, I didn't even realize he was in it. He wasn't in this week. He was in last week's episode. And one of my friends at work pointed it out to me. I completely missed him.
But
and I was like,
AJ, why can't he be 100 years old? Is he a normal Earthling human that can't like?
He's an alien.
All right, people in Star Wars live like hundreds of years.
Okay, that's not the problem. The problem is in canon, the year he was born, he's in, all right in
Phantom?
Yes, in Phantom Menace, he's only like, I forget how old he is. He's younger than Yoda.
Okay, Yoda's like 400.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty
but he's
big span there.
like in canon, his birth date is like 30 or 40 years from where the time period we're currently in.
All right, I believe you. You know the Star Wars canon way better than I do. I shouldn't fight you on this.
But that just goes to show
I'm not gonna fight you.
why this is pissing me off, how lazy this shit is, because you can't even do the research, which I can do the research in 2 minutes. You're telling me you work for this company, that has
Yeah,
all the
I know.
resources,
I know.
and you can't find this.
They don't have somebody. What was that guy? That guy, was it Jack Bender in Laws? That like that was his job.
His whole
They
job
need
was
somebody. They need somebody with that job. They don't.
Well,
have
that was,
somebody.
Jack Bender was just a director. Might have been
Yeah, I
Javi's.
can't remember who it was. I was thinking it was Jack Bender.
So
But
I also
somebody
thought
they
there,
had that was their job.
I thought there was some laziness with this, the master here in the writing, where, you know, they're like, what are you? I'm a Sith, whatever. What do you want? I want to be free. It's like his major thing is like, I want to be free. I want
And
to be
why are
able
you
to,
not free? Like that's not.
well, I want to be able to use the Force the way I want to use it. And it's a little not a sufficient motivation for this character, because like we're not aware of him not being able to do what he wants to do. We don't know what he wants to do. Like I'll agree that the Jedi are very prescriptive in how you should use the Force, and I think this show is a lot trying to set up the ways in which the Jedi became too powerful and too arrogant in their control of Force users, and people, you know, it led to their downfall, really. But for it to come out of this character's mouth at this moment, there's no real setup. Like, he's the only person we have seen complain, right? Like, okay, the Jedi did some bad shit, like on Osha's home planet, I think, and like they're keeping a secret, and Soul is keeping a secret, right? But I just thought it was like lazy dialogue when he's like, I want to be free. Like, he seems pretty free to me. He like didn't even know he existed. So how is he being controlled? I just thought it was a little bit weak there. That he could have had a better, I don't know. He could have said like something that was like, you guys control the Force too much or whatever. I just thought it was a little like
Unexplained. Didn't go in.
I don't know. I just was like, really? That's the line that comes out of his mouth. I want to be free. Like, I don't know. I thought there was a lot of potential with this show of the Jedi being like what leads the Jedi to come to where they are in the Phantom Menace. I do think Soul is keeping a secret. I mean, more and more, I think that
They said that. Yeah.
you said it last week. It wasn't like May might have she did set a fire, but like there was more stuff that we didn't see the Jedi, what was going on there until the moment that
Still, whether the Jedi did do things wrong or not, May is delusional.
Yes, May is not a good actor. She's a bad actor in this. Not that I mean Amanda Stenberg is a bad actor. I mean May's
character is a bad
right?
actor.
The actions she takes are bad. But yeah, this has been a little disappointing. This is more, yeah. I guess I want to see more helmet and more saber fights. It was pretty cool. Like, I was sorry to see. By the way, here's the picture where it looks like the back of Darth Vader's helmet, I think. But I was sorry to see Jecki go. I was sorry to see Daphne Keane go. I did think it was pretty cool where we saw her back and all of a sudden 3 holes shoot through it. And it turns out that it's because
it was a pretty cool death.
It turns out because he's got 2 sabers. It was a pretty good death to have with those 3 holes. And so at the end, Jamie pointed out Basil's still alive. Pip is in his hand, or some portion of Pip. And he has snuck onto the ship, and he's going to. This is the ship on which the Master has taken.
No. That's
Which
the Jedi ship.
He's on the Jedi ship. He snuck onto the Jedi ship.
He's gonna out May because he knows it's not Osha.
Yeah, because you can smell her.
So here's another thing. These Jedi are not very sensitive. Like, Darth Vader can sense when Obi-Wan is on a spaceship that's still like when he gets on the ship and he's like maybe 1,000 yards away from Darth Vader, he can sense it, right? And these guys like can't tell twins apart. Like Osha and May, I think would have a very different aura or force vibe.
I know.
I said the same thing while watching the episode. I was like, "Ooh, she cut her hair. You still have a tattoo on your forehead."
I also think like it's not it's not. Who said this? Was this who said I've had better story ideas for years?
Me. Well, it wasn't you or Jamie, so
No, but somebody like posted that, and I'm not sure who said that because it came up on all of our
yes,
channels.
I did.
Oh,
But
okay.
I was having a conversation with Ark in the chat.
Yeah, okay. I also think like if you go to Jedi school, they probably tell you to keep your lightsaber away from your face. It was a pretty cool haircut, but it was kind of ridiculous, right? Like that she cut her braid. It was kind of cool. She flipped her braids down and cut them with the. And I guess like when you're in a pinch, you can use your lightsaber as like a scissors or a can opener or whatever it is that you need it for. But I was like it was cool, but it was a little silly, right?
Yes.
But in a pinch, but yeah, so Basil's going to out May, and the Jedi. No wonder the Jedi like got wiped out. They do bad and stupid things in this show,
Yes.
and I really don't believe they couldn't tell May and Osha apart.
I would agree. And yes, Ark saying it's bad writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's yeah.
All right,
Simple.
This was episode 5. We are about halfway through. So right, 5 of 10.
They should have put more money into Doctor Who and less money into this. No.
There's no way they're ever going to put more money into Doctor Who than Star Wars.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, Doctor Who was good. We want more of that. Less of this bad.
All right.
Star Wars.
Onto a good show.
Oh my God. Interview with the Vampire.
I really liked it. You know, I got a question. Do you guys feel like, and maybe I'm just not remembering, but do you feel like this season is like the tone's different? Like I feel like it wasn't so much dark comedy last year. Okay, because I thought maybe I was misremembering, but I don't remember it being.
I mean, I don't know that I see a lot of dark comedy in this season. I see a lot of dark, horrible things.
What do you find funny, Jamie?
A comedic season.
I don't know. Some of the things like is more like, I don't necessarily want to say comedy, but that's why I'm saying dark comedy. Like some of the stuff like with Daniel and stuff. I don't know. Like when he's, talking and telling what he's not supposed to be telling and stuff. Some of it I found kind of funny, but
I mean,
not like ha funny necessarily, like not like super funny. Okay, I'm bad at my.
I think the tone of the seasons are different, partly because season 1 being set wholly in New Orleans, among that sort of decadent luxury and humidity and growth and things like that, and then this season is set in a concrete bunker for the most part, right? Yeah. I don't know that I found anything like comedic about.
And that's what I mean. I'm not meaning like it was super like made me laugh all the time, but I just mean like some of it seems like, I don't want to say silly either because that's not the right description. But some of it, like a lot of Daniel's flippancy, I guess, is kind of.
Well, the stuff at the theater had its comical moments, but
there's that too. But also, I think it's funny, like what some of it was a little funny to me, and not like I said, not like haha, like I was laughing funny, but just like of him screwing over Armand. Like I appreciated that. Like, it's kind of funny. It wasn't exactly funny, but it was like more. I guess like light. Maybe is more I'm saying, like it wasn't so dark and I don't know.
Really?
I feel like a good job explaining it. Because a lot of this episode was really sad. So it wasn't all like that. I'm meaning like certain pieces.
I feel, Jamie, that Daniel's flippancy is always like underscored by how dangerous, how stupid he is to do that, how very dangerous it is to like I just feel like it is fraught with danger every time he makes a sarcastic or flippant remark. And I'm always like, especially if you haven't read the books, you have to always be waiting for like one of them to bite him and kill him. And like the danger that he's walking into with every snide remark, his overconfidence and his arrogance, I just feel is like really what that humor, like, is it humor? What that sarcasm?
That's what I said. It's not exactly funny. I'm not describing it right with what I mean, but it's like not, I don't want to say not as serious either, because that's not the right description of what I mean. I'm doing a very bad job explaining what I mean, but it just seems like it's a different tone to me than it was.
It definitely is a different tone. It also was, season 1 was basically a story of people falling in love, and
this season's like a story of betrayal.
Yeah. I thought this was a great episode.
Yeah, I really
In
liked it.
part for its violence and vengeance, right? I mean, this is Louis. That's not really a good picture. This is more like the Louis revenge kind of, like this. Like, this is what this was all about, right? And again, a bunch of my photos. I gotta like upload some more of these photos.
I wonder if maybe there's a limit with how many, because like you've left all the old ones. Maybe you need to delete some of the old ones.
No, they're not old ones. There's plenty of like new ones. I delete the
No,
old
no,
ones.
but I know, but I'm saying like I'm wondering if there's a limit to how many can be on there at once.
There's a limit to the size of any individual photo I can upload to this. And if I don't have time to go through every single one of them and make sure of the size before I click upload, they get rejected
Then it
somehow.
just doesn't work. Got it.
Yeah. So, but I'm gonna go and find, like, I purposely was like, I had a bunch of photos of, well, let's talk about it and I'll see if I can check any of this, because
also, the thing I wanted to talk about is we had sort of touched on this before, and we had sort of talked about, and again, it's different because you guys have read the book and everything, but we had sort of talked about how Armand wanted, in a way, Claudia dead. And so that's what I kind of think was the interesting thing, like, because this, obviously that was correct, and that this whole thing was set up by him. But it wasn't just Claudia. I mean, I was definitely surprised that he tried to kill Louis, and that Lestat was the one that saved him. And that's just like where all this is so tragic, but they're all so bad for each other, though. They're all so toxic, no matter what, they all are, but it made me feel really bad for Lestat. And it's kind of like, he did all this crap to Lestat and wouldn't love him, and was like, threw Armand in his face. And then you find out, like, when he goes and finds him and he's like a little broken, it's just really sad, this episode.
yeah. It was really, I mean, you find out that Armand like directed the whole thing. Find out because Daniel has the script that he got from the Talamasca, which is kind of, I think,
like, I want him to tell Louis the truth, but I agree, that was kind of like, why would you do that? Because you should know that something bad is going to happen if you do that,
Yeah, I mean, you need to know that's a really kind of a bad idea. It was sort of, I mean, so I'm going to say, like, Jamie, as a non-book person, how did all that play to you?
Well, that's what I said. I was really surprised. I wasn't totally surprised that he was part of it and that he caused it, because I felt like there was a good chance that he wanted Claudia dead because it got in the way of their relationship. That part didn't surprise me, but I was surprised that he tried to kill Louis and that the whole thing was Lestat. I was definitely like shocked by that. And that was where I say it was like so tragic. And I like that Daniel told Louis, and it's kind of like he did that for him. And I know he didn't do it for him, because Daniel, I don't feel like, did that just to be a good guy. Daniel did it because Daniel's Daniel. But I just mean, like, it was, I don't know, like it was sad, but I was just surprised the way it played out in general. And I was surprised that that Armand turned Daniel as well.
So that is kind of a big thing, because Louis says to Armand when it all comes out, he says, listen, if you touch it, I'm going to go back to my angry Louis or whatever. He says, if you touch him, I will come and I will kill you. Right.
If you hurt him, which technically he turned him. He didn't exactly hurt him.
I mean, for Louis, I mean, does he say if you touch him? He says if you hurt him.
I think he says if you hurt him, which technically he kind of didn't hurt him. He gave him a gift.
But no, I mean, the entire time that Armand knew Louis considered it to be a curse to have been turned into a vampire, and he never would have chosen it again. Until maybe after all this happens. I mean, I don't think that Armand, we don't know. So you don't know at the end of this if Louis has retaliated against Armand for turning Daniel, right?
Right.
I would say that. Like, would you think that maybe he did kill Armand for doing this? I don't know.
Now we know Armand's alive because Daniel says, have you
haven't heard
talked
from
to my
him
maker lately?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
You guys are gonna hear me walking. I gotta get up because my iPad's gonna die. I gotta go plug it in.
so for some reason, Louis let it slide. We don't really know why.
Well, hey, at least he's given Daniel $10 million. At least he got something out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have sort of danced around the part where what this episode really was about was Louis's revenge, right? Like Louis gets out of that coffin and he is like, he spends all that time in that crypt going kind of nuts or being kind of nuts or recovering or whatever you want to like.
Yeah.
And like when Ark says, "Oh my Lord, was that a good season ending?" I feel like a whole what's that noise? A whole chunk of it was so
Plugging in the iPad. Sorry, I told you it might make noise. I had to.
a whole chunk of what was so good about it was Louis like now I'm getting an echo. I'm gonna go off. There's like you hear that?
No, it's fine.
Yep.
It's good now.
Well, I have an echo on my own.
Oh,
The echo's from Jamie just did.
I don't know. I'm not touching it now.
All right, I'm putting you on mute while I talk.
Now it's good.
Because I muted Jamie. We're getting feedback through her microphone right now. We'll turn you back on. But I felt like what partly was so good about it was like Louis' like vengeance. Louis like a single-minded maniac in this. Like how he systematically goes and kills everyone from the theatre, sets the theatre on fire, and like has this moment, and then like gets back together with Armand because he kills everyone except Armand because he believes that Armand was maybe partially a victim also, and that Armand saved him, right? That part was amazing, I thought. I don't know, AJ, did you, AJ, Jamie?
I loved that. The whole thing was crazy. I mean, he was completely unhinged. And I loved watching him go through the whole process of everything while he constructed the entire plan. And then, like when Daniel asks him later, he's like, why would you tell Armand? Wasn't that taking a risk? And Louis is like, he's like, you have to remember, I didn't plan on coming out of there alive. Louis was not planning on things going as well as they did, I don't think.
Like he thought, I'm going to kill them all and I might die in the process, and that's fine because I'm so grief-stricken over what has happened here.
Yes. Like that scene when he's talking to Daniel and he's like, like they're going through that whole little montage and he's like, but Claudia was dead. And he's like, and then this and this and this, Claudia was dead. And this and this and this, Claudia was dead. Like that was such a great scene, the way they did that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was great. I mean, Jamie, how did you love that?
Yeah, I liked it. The one thing I was going to say wasn't the part you were talking about, but I was going to say the other thing I really liked was him killing Santiago too. That was really cool. But yeah, the of Louis like constantly like she's dead, and that also ties in with Lestat's pain too, of when about saying that she's dead. Like I think that whole thing was really good, and it's like I said, it's heartbreaking, it's tragic.
Yeah. Sure. Wrong show there. He sent Armin a message not to be there that night. Yeah, he did, right? Ark, he sends a message and says, don't be in the theater tonight because I'm going to kill everybody, basically. I forgot about that. Jamie, I'm sorry. Yeah. Do you have two devices running? Because we get feedback every time your mic is open. If we talk, we'll just open you up when it's time for you to talk. But I know I had picture of our lovely. Where's Lestat? Didn't I show a pic? There he is. And so then Lestat, like after the whole thing goes down with Armand, and like, I mean, I loved how Daniel like reveals this when Daniel's like, "Oh, let me just ask a couple follow-up questions." Dun dun dun! Here's the script. It was Armand. Right. And then Louis decides to go back to Lestat and like I don't know, ask him if it's true. And we see that Lestat in the last 77 years, Lestat is really not. Okay, this man is still exceedingly hot in this picture, right? But Lestat is not in a good place. Right? Jamie?
Yeah, can you hear me now? I'm not sure why it's doubled. I checked, my computer wasn't even started up anymore.
You sound
So,
great.
yeah, I'm not sure why it's echoing other than I'm in my office instead of the living room now. But other than that, I don't know. But yeah, he's hot. I would agree with that. My question though is, did he not stay with Lestat? Because I was thinking what you said, he went back to Lestat, but then yet he's in Dubai alone. So what's up with that?
I think they didn't get back together. They found a place of like, he goes back to Lestat. He's like, did you really do this? And I guess they kind of thank each other and forgive each other, kind of like they hug twice, right? And then Louis goes back. I think maybe they made peace over their toxic relationship, but that doesn't like, I think maybe Louis has learned a lot and doesn't want to get back into that toxic relationship. Maybe. Well, what do you think, AJ? Based on the screen, not the book, based on the screen.
No, I listen. This entire episode, I've only been basing on the screen because the book is a little different.
Yep.
This week and last week are the only 2 weeks that I did not compare it to the book at all. That's how good these 2 episodes were the past 2 weeks. I did a really good job not getting agitated. But I mean, it's very telling in what Louis says when he says, "I'm a companion enough for myself." Like Louis has gotten over that hump of needing to be with somebody. He's perfectly fine being by himself right now, and that I think is very telling. That's why he goes back to Dubai by himself, because he doesn't need to be with Lestat.
Arca's right. So Luke, he's only eating rats, and he's not even fetching his own rats. He like turned a guy to be his rat catcher.
Yeah.
Lestat is a pretty pathetic state.
I have to question though. Is that better? Is it less echoey now?
Yes.
Okay, that was what it was then. When I moved the iPad to the office, I didn't know it. I knocked it partially out of the case, and it was the microphone was all messed up, I guess, from it. But I kind of wonder though, is that just because he's like depressed and not going out? You don't think maybe he's trying to be like Louis? Because I kind of wondered that a tiny bit, because there's the whole thing that Louis always ate rats, I don't know that it was meant to mean anything, but I kind of wondered.
I don't know. It's also kind of it's a turnabout, because like in that scene, Louis is like, "Oh, thank you, Lestat, for giving me the gift. I never thought it was a gift. I never understood it as a gift, and I didn't want it, but now I realize that it's a gift." And like, is he thanking Lestat for he's thanking for turning him? That's the gift, right? I mean, it's been a long time since Louis hunted for rats. He eats blood that Rashid pours out of a bottle, but someone has killed that human, right?
Yeah, I just meant when Lestat was with him, he was eating rats.
Yeah, he was. And now that's right. But Louis, like, I'm saying it's kind of like, so yeah, you're saying like, is Lestat doing penance? Is Lestat like, I'm not going to kill people anymore, I think it's a curse now? Or like, I don't really know.
Well, he's also living there, like in a slum too. So that's the other strange thing. Is it because of that? Is it because of what happened? Is he trying to, I don't know, make up for something? Or is he just, like I said, so depressed that he's living like that? I don't know.
He's depressed.
Well, and because he presumably still has access to millions of dollars, but he's living in like a crumbling New Orleans, like terrible, like he's depressed. Like, why is he? But he's depressed over the death of Claudia. He's guilt stricken over the death of Claudia, right?
Yeah, and I kind of question, could he not have tried to save Claudia too? Because he went along with everything. Like, he went along with everything until Louis was about to die. So was it just that kind of pushed him out of it when it was going to be Louis and he's like, I can't lose him? Because he seemed to not care if he went through the whole play and didn't do a damn thing.
I think that he needed everything he had to say. He had to save Louis. While he wanted to save Claudia, I think he knew he didn't have the power to save them both, and he had to save Louis.
You think he was not powerful enough to save both of them? He could only mind control the audience enough to save one of them?
That's how I kind of took it.
Or well, also, if he saved one of them, they might, like, Santiago might have stopped it after he saved Claudia, and then he wouldn't have been able to save Louis. So there's also that.
That's possible. But it could also be hindsight. I think maybe maybe we'll find out more of why he's been depressed the last 77 years in season 3.
I mean, Claudia's death was horrifying, and maybe like it was when he saw her burn. And I read an interview with the actors about this scene, and the young woman who plays Claudia, whose name is Danielle. Oh my God, I hate when I don't know actors' names. They all talked about that moment where she's about to die and she looks at Lestat and she's looking at him, in the actor's opinion, as if she's like, please, daddy, like, save me. Like, he's her father. He created her. He is. And like, please, like that moment of like reaching out to the only person in that room who can do anything or who cared about her. And Lestat, I mean, yeah, he could be powerless to save her.
He actually says that in the episode. Lestat says that at the last moment, she turns and looks at him like a father, like a little child.
And he's had 77 years to think about that, and it's just another example of nobody choosing Claudia. Right? He chooses Louis over Claudia, like he did always. He never wanted to make. It's true that they never should have made Claudia, but they did make her, and
Yeah.
So it was probably a combo of penance and depression. But he's practicing piano, and he says, I'm going to go on tour. I only need to practice for 50 more years.
And he's practicing on a piece of wood. I mean, I think he knows it's not a piano, but part of me kind of wondered maybe he's a little loopy too.
Maybe eating rat blood like for 70 years makes you not able to think clearly from not eating. You need to look human blood. I don't know, but yeah, it's a piece of wood. It's like, is he? Yeah. It's a little. It's a little foreshadowing for the next season, but it's also like, is he a little crazy? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be both.
I think for those of us who read the books, this episode had 2 or 3 incident, like clues of foreshadowing of different kinds. Here's an interesting comment from Ark. I don't think Lestat realized how much he loved Claudia till it was too late.
I agree with that. I think that's true, probably.
I mean, she did try to kill him. A lot of this was like him harboring revenge for like 20 years, 30 years of her. Like, it was her idea and he knew it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we're about, the only other thing is like, so Daniel being turned is kind of a big switcheroo at the end, right? And like, what does that mean going forward, that he now is a vampire?
It isn't. Is he? This is where the book nerd in me is kind of wondering how they're going to play this out, because is season 3 Lestat's perspective like going through the years, or are we just picking up from this moment and becoming a rock star in the now, or is it something that's already happened, or you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure how they're going to play this out, because in that, you know, the fact that this was a second interview and Daniel's an old man now, the fact that he's been turned this soon, quote unquote, this soon, makes perfect sense, because in the books he doesn't get turned till much later.
And he's a much older man.
Well, I mean, he's still. I mean, that's the thing. In the books, he's still relatively young. I mean, he's in his 20s when he writes Interview with the Vampire, and I think in the books when Armand finally turns him, I think he's maybe in his 30s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And he's kind of pathetic in the books because he just kept begging for somebody to turn him.
He was begging. In the books, he begs and begs for them to turn him.
Yeah.
All right. I think it was great. Is it renewed? Because this show is great and it needs to be renewed.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
You didn't know, I thought I told you it was. I thought I sent a text that was.
I think you did. Yeah. Was that Jamie talking?
I said yes. I said yes, it was renewed.
I thought I saw you. I thought I saw you talk while you were muted, and I was freaked out.
She had muted for a second.
She unmuted herself.
But yeah, I can't wait for season 3, because you know I love the Vampire Lestat so much, just because it's you get so much more lore in that. Like it's funny because like until you read the Vampire Lestat, you don't realize what a bad narrator Louis really is from Interview with the Vampire. Like if you interview with the Vampire, you're like, oh my god, Lestat. And then you read Vampire Lestat and you're like, he's not so bad.
And we saw a little bit of that in this season where we saw like Lestat's different view of their relationship. Right.
Yeah, I've heard some really great things about next season already that I'm excited for, because it's actually funny because some of my complaints about this season that they even bothered mentioning some of the stuff, and now I'm finding out that they're casting his mother for next the guy that played Nicholas this season is coming back, so we're definitely gonna get the here and now, but we're also gonna get a lot more of his history,
his origin and his history. Yeah, I mean, I love the Vampire Lestat partly because it's set in the 80s and
that's why I'm wondering, is it going to be set in the 80s? Is he going to tell it from that perspective, or is it going to be in the now because of what they've done with?
Now, in the book, the whole thing is in the 80s. The Vampire Lestat, that book at its core is Lestat's reaction to reading Daniel's book.
Yeah. Yeah, very true.
And so it has to ensue from here.
Yeah, good point.
All right. Great season. We have one more show left, which is House of the Dragon. And we usually say goodbye to Jamie then. So please, Jamie, come on and tell us.
Yeah, before we do that, I did want to talk a little bit about My Lady Jane. You guys didn't watch any of it though, huh?
No.
Because I'm wondering how much I should go into. Are you intending to watch any of it, or do you not care either way? No. Okay. Well, I really like it. I think it's really funny. I had sort of talked a little bit about it before, that it's about like an alternate history of Jane Grey, but I don't know, it's not what I expected, because it's also a fantasy, which if you don't want to be spoiled at all, don't listen right now, but I'm basically just going to tell the parts that are in the first episode, so you won't get a whole lot anyway. But there are shapeshifters, people who shapeshift into animals called Ethians, and there's a lot of, I guess I want to say like political stuff in that sense, but they use the animals are like kind of in place of religion fighting and stuff, you know what I mean? Like about, instead of being those kind of political, I'm trying to think of the right way to say what I'm trying to say. like they are at least it's been like outlawed and everything. They're not allowed to be there and they can't change everything. But anyway, if you listen to the interview with the producers, they kind of explain how it's meant to kind of represent that. But anyway, some of them shapeshift, and the point of it is, the main part of the beginning is that because she's a woman in that time, she's being forced to marry, and she's trying to do everything she can, including faking dying, to stop it, although it ends up being a different person than she thought she was going to be forced to marry. But you find out after that the one who's her husband, they wanted him to marry her because they wanted him to be safe, because it turns out that he at night, or not at night, sorry, during the day, turns into a horse, but he can't control it. So the other ones can turn and turn back at will. And it's just funny. It's a really good show. I like it a lot. It's romance, it's adventure, it's comedy. I think you guys might like it, but it is definitely like a fantasy type thing, you know.
So it's the story of Lady Jane Grey, who became the Queen of England for like a week or something, or like 10 days or whatever, right? And so she has
yeah, this is if she wasn't beheaded. If none of that, if that didn't happen and it went a little differently.
Okay. But so she gets to be the queen, and her husband, though, is a shapeshifter, but he's like Fiona from Shrek, that she's like, can only, like, she's an ogre, but can only turn into a princess, I don't know, in the moonlight or whatever that's about.
Yeah, kind of. At midnight, or not at midnight. When the sun goes up, he turns into a horse and he can't control it. But there's a lot of like them hating each other and end up, you know, falling for each other type of thing. That's why it's got a really good romance too. But she's definitely like a strong heroine, like does what she wants and won't take anybody's crap. But yeah, it's kind of like about how, because part of it is too the King of England at that point, who's her cousin, is being poisoned, and I don't want to tell too many spoilers, but she does, at least for a while, become queen, which is part of the real history. But yeah, it's different. It's hard to explain. You got to watch it, but it is really funny. There's a lot of good actors in it. I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I think if you like that kind of fantasy, if you like and normally I don't like necessarily historical type things, but it's not really that either. It's more fantasy, romance, comedy, I guess, adventure, because it's very funny though. That's why I said it's kind of got like a Monty Python vibe a little bit, maybe, sort of thing. I guess I'd say. Yeah. I don't know. I think you might like it, but you really got to try it. But I think you can tell early on if you like it by the sort of the tone it is. But that was really good. I liked it. Those main interviews are up, and then also
And that's on Amazon.
Yeah, that's on Prime. Yeah, but Christian went to the red carpet, so I haven't gotten a chance to finish editing yet, but she went to the red carpet and has some more interviews and pictures that are going to be going up as well. In the next couple days. So there is that. Let me see if there's anything else. I mean, we don't have to, talk about it more than that. I just want to say I did enjoy it. Well, we know the arc's coming. You said Serpent Queen's coming. Some of the other stuff I had covered was movies. Also, Those of Us About to Die is coming, and I know that's not necessarily something we cover, but that is the one that Jill was a staff writer on, that we had mentioned before. So that's coming too, which is pretty cool. But yep.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything else. But we have, pretty soon we'll have some of those other things are starting, just not quite yet. And Descendants Red or whatever it's called, but that's not something we would cover either. That's why I'm looking at my list of the different things that are coming out. All right. Well, I did not watch House of the Dragon, so I guess I will bounce. But we already talked about a lot. So, and I'm sorry, my iPad is echoing. I have no clue why. Like I said, other than I moved rooms, so I don't know.
Well, I think your echoing iPad is perfect for making us not talk over each other.
That's a good point. Okay, well, guys, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
And
Night,
Art
night.
says she's 15 minutes into it. She liked it right away. So, yeah, I think you guys should check it out. You might like it.
Cool.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Night, Jamie.
I was giving Jamie like one word answers so I wouldn't hear my echo. So, all right.
Real quick before we do get started on House of Dragon, something about vampires that we totally forgot to mention was that Sam was the Talamasca's inside man.
Oh yeah, that was kind of a big
Yeah,
thing
that was a big.
Yeah. Because obviously, I want to call it Merrick couldn't pass that to him. And it was Sam. Yeah, that was a pretty like. And so the new Talamasca show is coming, so we'll see. Maybe he'll be in it, right?
Who knows when that'll be coming? But
Yeah. But that was kind of big. Yeah. All right. So, Team Black is in the house. Everyone in our chat is Team Black. Is anybody Team Green? Like, come on, who would be Team Green, right? Good episode. AJ, I don't know how closely this went to the book. I know there are some departures. I mean, I thought there's sort of like 3 good chunks of this story.
it's different. It's like I'm fine with whatever they do because it's not like Interview with the Vampire and the entire the Vampire Chronicles, all of that is so ingrained in me that I I know it inside and out. And there's certain things that, it's like anytime you adapt something, it's not about getting everything exactly right because you're never going to do that. And it doesn't always translate. Just ask Negan. But as long as you hit the high notes and the important parts, the classic parts, the parts you're waiting to be coming, then you're okay. And that's what Interview with the Vampire has done. Mayfair Witches, not so much. House of the Dragon is doing a very good job of that, I mean, Game of Thrones did a good job of that until they ran out of source material because George R.R. Martin hasn't figured out how to finish the last damn book. So yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I do occasionally, while I'm watching this, like Google a little bit of okay, Rhaenyra has like 1 million children and they all have Targaryen names, and I can't remember like which kid is from which father, especially when I don't see them. And so, but I do try to avoid like book kind of spoilers.
The good news is she only has 1 child left. It's a bastard.
Yeah.
And the other 2 are Daemons, so it's
Well, I mean, so she's got, and then Damon has these children from his first. They have a blended family, right, of like a whole bunch of children. And so sometimes I'm like watching it, and I'm like, let me quick grab my phone and Google up this name and like make sure I know which one. And they all have the same names. They all like the Targaryens name all their kids after their predecessors and their ancestors, and they just kind of like add a Y and an S on the end of the name to like change it a little bit, right?
Yes.
So, but I try to, like, when a book thing comes up, avoid it. So I mean, I felt like there's so much going on in this episode, and then it's all kind of blown away by the last 5 minutes, right? There's all this stuff going on in King's Landing, largely around the boys being complete like asshats, right? Like the king is not equipped to be the king. His brother is like got major issues, right? And there's all that going on there. There's Sir Kristen Cole, who we need to give him a whole conversation, right? He needs a whole conversation. There's Rhaenyra sending her children away for safety. And there's the part where Rhaenyra's council are a bunch of misogynists who have no confidence. They're like, oh, you need to go hide. And I think it's really because she's a woman. And so which part of that do you want to like rehash first?
Well, how about this? I completely agree with Ark's comment here that I definitely felt it was a slower episode. But she's right, a ton of foreshadowing for what's to come. I want to my gripe. Kristen Cole is an idiot. Like he is, first of all, the absolute worst choice for a hand ever. But I get it because Aegon can't have somebody, because Aegon, I mean, the actor that's playing Aegon is doing an amazing job. Aegon has no confidence. Aegon knows that he's a phony, and I think he knows with his grandfather as his hand, who is a brilliant politician, that he can't compare. So I think he made Cole his hand to seem smarter, because he clearly is smarter than Cole. Cole's a fucking idiot. Let's go after Harrenhal. We have, are you kidding me?
So Harrenhal is like the hardest place to, as a castle, right? And the people who live there, what? Like everything you know about Harrenhal from Game of Thrones, like what you see in this episode where Daemon goes to Harrenhal and it's kind of a wreck. Okay. It's a wreck. It's a wreck 75 years later. Arya goes to live there for a long time in Game of Thrones, and it's a wreck 100 years from now, right? Yeah. And yet it's also like impenetrable. No one can get in, no one can get out unless they let you.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Ark's comment. She said I gave Cole credit by calling him an idiot.
Oh, Kristen Cole is the worst because he knows he's out of his depth. He's not even like we've seen a lot of hands of the king who are really arrogant and believe they should be the king and believe they should be the hand and think they're smart. Kristen Cole knows he's outclassed. He knows he shouldn't be the hand. Like the look on his face last week when he got the job, right? And he's really he's so threatened by the queen's brother, which kind of surprised me, right? I think maybe the queen's brother's name is Sir Gawain, right?
Gawain, yeah. I forgot about
Gawain. Has Cole's not Gawain is way smarter than Cole. I think Cole is afraid that Gawain is going to out him for being stupid, and I think he's also afraid that Gawain's going to out him for sleeping with Alicent. Like Gawain could know already, but Gawain will quickly figure it out if he doesn't know, right? Like he's all sorts of threatened by Gawain. Kristen Cole, I think he's another character who's motivated since last season by self-doubt. Sir Gawain, in this scene, Sir Gawain points out to him, he's like, oh, you've really come a long way from your roots as like a nothing, right? He points out that Kristen Cole came from nothing, wasn't born to nobility, and is sort of up-jumped as head of the Kingsguard.
Yeah.
I would like to point out to you guys that The Ringer, if you guys ever read The Ringer, they had a fantastic piece this week. The headline is A Hater's Guide to Sir Kristen Cole. I'm going to put this into the chat so all of you all can click on it. And it basically is a long diatribe about how horrible this character is. And it's like all the ways you can hate Kristen Cole. And it points out that we gave him a chance in season 1, right? If you hate him, he earned us hating him. And he's not.
When he was with Rhaenyra, we kind of liked him.
Yeah, when he was with Rhaenyra, we kind of liked him, right? He was kind of and he turned on Rhaenyra for because she, it's not her fault that she can never be with him or that she didn't love him or that he had an unrequited whatever, or right. He's got this whole thing that Rhaenyra, he's so mad at Rhaenyra for having an affair. When she was married, she had an affair and had all these children. I think he's really mad that the affair wasn't with him. I think that he's he calls her a whore. He calls her all these names. Meanwhile, he's sleeping with Alicent since really before her husband died. Right. There's that part of him that's so horrible. He's not he will turn on Alicent. I think he's mean to little kids. Like he was a jerk to all those little kids when he was training them. The Ringer's like, don't be fooled by his good looks. He has a terrible personality.
He was mean to the kids because he knew that they weren't.
Yeah. And he's very shady in that, like, he's like, I got a great idea how to kill Rhaenyra. You go do it. Like, right? Like he like sends like other people on basically suicide missions because he's impotent as a leader, right? He's the worst. He's the worst. If he doesn't know before the token exchange, he sure does now. He's going to get a lot of people killed before he gets himself killed, probably, right? I mean, he already got Sir Eric killed. And he's going to be a terrible, terrible hand. He might get, the only good thing would be if he got the king killed, maybe, I don't know, because he's horrible also, right? Like all the men, like most of the men on this show, like, is there a man on this show that I think, like, it's kind of shocking that right now Otto Hightower is kind of the best man on the show, right? I don't know, like, I shouldn't say that, like Rhaenyra's husband, Lord I
don't know. Well, I don't know about saying the best. He's the smartest one.
He's the smartest.
He's the smartest one to. Oh, actually, and also the Lord of Whispers.
Lord.
Larry's.
Except he's bad guy.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that. But they're still smarter than like the lead guys. They're smarter than Cole and the King.
Yeah, I mean Lord Corlys, he's pretty good, right? He's Rhaenyra's husband, and he's he's pretty good. But in general, we have a lot of like. So again, like I had a bunch of pictures rejected by this, and I had to go to happy hour, so I didn't have time to like come back and check all the pictures. I just got home from happy hour like half an hour before the show. But we have a whole thing going on where I don't have a good picture of Rhaenyra really. But here's Rhaenyra with her children, where she's sending them away for their safety and whatever. But there's the scene where the what's her name? The White Worm? Is that what she's called?
Yeah. Her name's like Matt. Starts with an M.
She has saved Rhaenyra's life, and Rhaenyra's like, I should probably thank you. How can I do that? And the White Worm says, I want a place in your court. And there's a discussion of like whether she can be trusted, what you can offer. I mean, it's a great scene, I think, between those two women. And it directly sets up Rhaenyra getting it to King's Landing at the end of the episode. But I mean, I love that negotiation between those two. And I don't know. I feel also like in this universe that we're watching, a woman like Rhaenyra is more like I like how these two women are able to like negotiate and find their common ground, and how it kind of foreshadows the meeting at the end in a way that I don't know that would happen between two men or a man and a woman. Like Daemon just has not treated her the way Rhaenyra treats her.
No, Daemon, and you're right. No, you're right. All the men, they just want to go to war. None of them want to keep the peace.
No, and the young people, like a big part of these last two episodes have been like the young people want to go to war, but certainly by the end of it, it's like the men want to go to war. How do we stop it, right?
Yeah. Which you can't, because it's Alicent has no power anymore. Even if she wanted, I mean, she does want to stop the war, but she has no power anymore. Cole's off doing his stupidity. Her son's like, I'm gonna go too and fly my dragon. And actually, if you look at everybody in King's Landing, Aemond is actually, he should be the king with what we've been given on the screen with him. He has his issues and everything, but he's so like he's a good politician and he's a good warrior. He's the only best of both worlds character in King's Landing, and that scene with him when he gets caught literally with his pants down.
Yeah.
But I loved the way you could see it come over his face. Like you see him, he's very vulnerable, and then everybody starts making fun of him, and you can see him just turn it on. He puts on, his whatever you want to call it, his attitude, and he just has that I don't give a fuck type vibe about him, to the point where he stands up on the bed, butt ass naked, and just walks through the brothel, not giving a fuck,
No,
and
but
not caring who sees, who sees him or how he might feel. He never lets anybody see him how he feels out in public.
no, because I really felt that he had to muster up that attitude. He was kind of embarrassed. Was he embarrassed? Was he humiliated? Was he like, when they come, I mean, we saw last episode where he like crawls in that woman's lap and cries, and she's like a comfortable place for him. And when they're caught together, I mean, they're caught in like Aegon goes around and opens all these doors, and there's like major sex happening between every door. And these two are more in like an embrace, and so you don't really see what's going on, but they're not like, right? I mean, he's got like, and then his brother mocks him immediately. I'm not really sure. Oh, because he always goes back to the same woman, right? Like Aegon's mocking him for not being more of a. I don't have a picture of him. I think the reason there are no pictures on the HBO press site is because he only appeared naked in this episode. But yeah, Ark, to her point, he was done being bullied.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, I have to remember. So I feel like these two actors, Aegon's older, but I feel like that actor looks a little younger than Aemond. And so to me, sometimes I have to remember, oh, right. And he's taller also, right? So sometimes oh, he's the younger brother, right? He's the younger brother. But yeah, I think he was done being, you see him, like he sits up with his back to his brother, and he takes it and takes it and takes it until, as Ark says, he's done being bullied and he stands up.
Yeah.
And this is a dangerous character when he stood up to, who was Lucerys was killed, right?
Yeah, Luke.
When Luke was killed, Aemon's been all like, he's like going to bully the younger boy over the eye, over loss of his eye. I want your eye. I mean, obviously you're not able to pluck out his eye on Dragonback, right? But it goes bad and the kid is killed, and it's not really what he intended.
And it's actually funny too, because he actually has remorse about it.
A little bit, not a lot.
Well, I mean, yeah, but to the point where he's like, that's not what I meant to happen. Like he admits that was not, I mean, a lot of these men in King's Landing, they'd be like, oh, of course that's what I meant to happen. I have no problem, but to see that, everything that Aemon's been bullied since he was a young child. And I always hated that scene. Still pisses me off to when Luke took his eye. It wasn't even Luke's fault. It was actually the girls. It was kind of like they got kind of like pushed together. It's
a little bit like, you have to remember, is it glossed over or just not really remembered? Like, he was the only one of them who wasn't a dragon rider, and they ridiculed him for that. Yeah. And for a Targaryen, that's like not having power and not claiming your place. And even like, look, Rhaenyra's children who are not full Targaryen, like, are dragon riders, right? And I guess they're equally as Targaryen as Aemon, right? Like they're the children of Alicent. They're only half also, but he was bullied over that. He's got a real inferiority complex that makes him dangerous, just like it makes Kristen Cole dangerous, but for different reasons. Because Kristen Cole is kind of dumb, and Aemon is kind of smart.
Aemon is very smart,
right? But not. I mean, he regrets. He didn't really mean to kill his little cousin. He feels kind of bad, but I think he also doesn't really get how. Okay, you just started a war, right? You just started a war. I'm not sure he really gets it any more than his brother, who's also like, I want to go to war. I want to go to war. And like everybody, there's almost nobody like who remembers a war. It's been, I think Rhaenyra has pointed that out, that like when she picks Kristen Cole to head her father's Kingsguard back when she's a teenager last year, it's because he's one of the few people who has seen actual fighting.
Yeah.
which actually makes him all the dumber in what he's doing now, right? Like he is not a voice for averting war at all. It's his idea to go and attack Rhaenyra in an action that is surely to only escalate the war, right? I mean, so Kristen Cole being the hand of the king is like literally the dumb leading the dumber. The dumb and dumber, right? I mean, that is only bad. Meanwhile, poor Rhaenyra, she's got all these men. Her husband's away. Her husband, who also undermines her and only really married her because he, like, I don't have a good picture of Daemon, but Daemon has this whole thing where it's at Harrenhal and they keep calling him my prince. And he's like, Your Grace. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We thought since you're only the consort, I assumed, and like you're just digging your hole deeper, right?
And we got Millie Alcott back for a small second.
Yes, we did. We had a little
which is probably the funniest thing the show has done yet, where she was sewing the head of Jacaerys back on.
Yeah. It was so dream sequence.
Yeah, Damon's kind of losing it.
Is he drugged? Is he crazy? What do you think about that from what you see on the screen, not from what you know?
I think he's losing it. He's basically dreaming in the middle of the day.
Well, he was in his room. It's hard to tell in Harrenhal if it's day or night, right?
Fair.
But he's in his room. It's night, I think. He's in his room.
Actually, I thought about you, Karen, because all those Harrenhal scenes, all I kept saying was, what the hell's going on? I can't see anything.
That was pretty underlit, right? I don't have a picture of that, but I mean, it was like, look at this, and it was darker than. Well, this is probably not like day to night. It's when they do those those scenes that are like when they swap day for night. You know how they do that? That's when it's really bad. Like if they would just shoot at night with lights, it'd be way better. But those scenes with him were when he sees her and he's hearing things like, yeah, is he losing it? Is he? I was like, wait, Harrenhal's not haunted as far as I recall, right? Like what? It was great to see Millie Alcock, but that whole Daemon thing, I don't know. It's a little a side thing. I mean, I don't know if it felt important right now, except in the way that it isolates Rhaenyra further, right?
I feel like it's going to pay off later.
Yeah, probably. I think so. So before we talk about the ending, we have this guy.
Oh yeah, I forget about that.
This guy, I forget his name, but he shows up in a.
Say his name?
What?
I said, did they even say his name? He just claims to be a bastard brother of Daemon in the series.
Right. So the title of the picture is Tom Bennett. I think that might be the actor. I don't think that's really like the character's name. I think the actor is Tom Bennett. He like shows up in this tavern and starts talking about how he's a half-blood Targaryen, right? And he's the bastard. So according to the internet, his name is Ulf White.
Okay.
I guess White. You know how in Game of Thrones, like all bastards have a name like
Snow or
Stone or whatever.
Sand.
Sand. So his name is Ulf White. And he's cut off when the king comes in, but he had been running his mouth about he's supposedly the bastard son of Balon the Brave, and that makes him a half brother of Daemon, right? And he claims like he has the claim to the throne. He thinks because if Viserys died, if you pass over Daemon, it comes to him. Or is he older than Daemon? Is he really the oldest brother, right? I think it could be a lie. His hair is not that blonde. And it also seems like he sort of runs his mouth and gives up that info to this Dornish stranger pretty easily. Unless there's a plot afoot, which it could still be a lie, right?
Well, he was actually saying, I mean, he was putting his hat in the ring for Rhaenyra. He was saying she's the true heir. But one of the guys actually said something about his hair, and he goes, "I'm a half brother."
Yeah, I mean, Rhaenyra is like her children by Sir, what's his name, Strong. They're like she's the blonde, he's brown. The brown's the dominant. They became brunette children, right? I don't know, like because I haven't read the book, I don't know like where this is going. If he really is, he could be lying, or he might not be. Like, I mean, one thing you know from Game of Thrones is that all these kings had tons of bastards all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So he could be. It doesn't also. I mean, to me, it doesn't appear that he's able to. He doesn't look like he's a guy who can raise an army, or. I mean, I guess the big thing is if you're half Targaryen, can you ride a dragon? That's really the big question, right? To me, I don't know. You've read the book, but I think if you're half Targaryen and you're basically like a he's not rich. He's keeping, he says like the dragon seed have to be quiet about it because somebody might come and kill you. He doesn't really appear to have, like, what could he offer to Rhaenyra?
Yeah.
Nothing. He's only a threat to Rhaenyra unless he's able to ride a dragon and be loyal to her. So I don't know. Maybe he's going to be a dragon rider. All right. So then the whole episode is blown away when this happens, right? Like, first of all, I'm sorry, but this is the hottest septa I've ever seen in like 7 seasons of watching, right? The septas are all old enough. When she was walking up the stairs and we saw her from the back, I was like, well, that is the greatest figure you've ever seen on a septa. Because, and the whole episode kind of like everything that came before it almost goes out the window when like the White Worm proves her value to, like, she's able to like get Rhaenyra not inside the Red Keep, but into King's Landing, and she knows that Alicent like goes outside of the Godswood. Well, she goes to the Godswood, but she comes in here to pray, which I don't know, like Rhaenyra kind of knew that, and they have this conversation. And I really started to hate Alicent even more, and like this is a scene where Alicent is really kind of a jerk to Rhaenyra, and I feel like before Rhaenyra figures out, before the whole prince that was promised comes up or whatever, like she's really kind of a jerk. Like Alicent is like, oh well, you killed my son, whatever. Like you had my son killed, so, and Rhaenyra's like, wait a minute, your son killed my son. And Alicent, like, it's like Alicent, like, I just hate that Alicent like doesn't really like acknowledge that happened at all, right? And she like really, I get it that she blames Rhaenyra for having her grandson killed, and Rhaenyra doesn't really get the chance to say like, oh, it was a Daemon, but like your son killed her son. Like what? Like Alicent, I don't know. She's kind of self-righteous. She's kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if she has to force herself to, the only way she can live with herself and in this like golden cage she's in is to believe this stuff. But she's like, I'm ranting. But she's really a jerk in this scene.
Well, don't forget, earlier in the episode, Helena comes to her and forgives her. And she's like, you're forgiving me for what? And Helena just doesn't say anything. She just kind of looks at her like, you're the reason that Cole wasn't in his post and my son is dead. Your grandson died because you were getting laid. Is basically what Helena was saying.
Yeah.
And then she has this conversation with Rhaenyra, so it's kind of like, yeah. But I will say one thing for Alicent that I kind of appreciate. I thought was a really good line was when she said, I haven't always been, I don't remember the exact word she used. Basically, she said, I haven't always been nice, but I've always been truthful.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good
yeah.
Good line. But even once Rhaenyra, says to her, she's like, oh my God, my dad was delusional. That's a story he tells about Aegon the Conqueror. And you can see Alicent, and you can see the look on Alicent's face. She's like, ah, shit. But she refuses to acknowledge it. She's like, my son's the king. I'm leaving.
Well, she's committed. It's too late.
Well, yeah. And there's nothing she can do about it anyway at this point.
Well, and like before this happened, like in season 1, like when the succession first was in question, like Otto was like, don't you want your son to be king? Like Alicent definitely took actions for her son to be the king. I mean, I think maybe she was like Otto was like, oh, if Rhaenyra becomes the queen, she has to kill your children because to like secure herself. But like Alicent knows Rhaenyra wouldn't do that, right?
Rhaenyra might not.
Maybe.
I can't speak for other people in the family.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Like that whole part about the prince that was promised. Like Alicent really had Rhaenyra. Alicent's like, he changed his mind. He's changed his mind. I'm telling you. And Rhaenyra's like, I was just there 2 hours before he died. And Alicent's like, no, I was there 5 minutes before he died. I'm sorry. And
Yeah, Rhaenyra
Rhaenyra
started to question it. She was like, wow. You could see the wheels spinning. Like she was like, wait, did he really?
She started to question.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked, I think, because Rhaenyra always has lacked confidence in her father choosing her. And many people have said to her, look, he didn't choose you. He just didn't want Daemon.
Yeah.
Which is, and she has lacked confidence about that. And for Alicent to be like, he changed his mind, there's a part of Rhaenyra that will believe that, right? And so she starts to cry. She almost has her until she's the prince that was promised. I loved when Rhaenyra goes, wait, he spoke to you of the Song of Ice and Fire? And that's where the look in Alicent's eyes was like, wait, what? And I think this is only going to make Rhaenyra more committed and more certain that
absolutely
chose her, right? Like Alicent is like, whatever, my son's king, and Alicent doesn't want to believe it. But I think Alicent knows that she's made a mistake, that she misunderstood. She admitted herself that he was like delirious. And then it's only like Rhaenyra is only going to be stronger in her feeling that like this, that.
Oh yeah, it's on.
It's on. The Dance of the Dragons is on.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. And I think these two are done communicating, and their friendship. I mean, their friendship was kind of like Rhaenyra reached out in the sense of friendship, like they never had a fight or anything. These two, Alicent made overtures all last season. She's like, Rhaenyra, it doesn't have to be like this. I think that's because Alicent is maybe not that smart. Rhaenyra's like, yeah, it has to be this way. Yeah, it does, bitch.
Well, but Alicent, but the Alicent was like, it doesn't have to be like this, Just accept my son as your king.
Yeah. Yeah.
Art gave me the exact quote. Alicent says, I haven't always been kind, but I've always been truthful.
Except when what you believe to be the truth is actually not correct.
Well, yeah.
But that's not her fault. Yeah. I don't know. Alicent, I think she's losing a lot of sleeping with Kristen Cole does not engender anybody to join House Green, right? I mean, Alicent is like, I get it that she was in this marriage for many years where I think she loved Viserys in like a way, the way you love your best friend's father. And it was a loving marriage in some ways, but
you do what you can when your dad pimps you into the king's bedroom.
Yeah, but she started she's isolated and sleeping with Kristen. I don't know. She keeps saying no and then going back to Kristen Cole. Like, are we supposed to believe there's some undeniable sexual attraction that they can't control themselves? And
he's just good in bed.
Yeah. And she's never slept with anyone except Viserys. Right?
So maybe he's not good in bed and she just doesn't know any better.
He's better than her 80-year-old leper husband. But he's not she has to know, like, this also, I also think part of the reason that they're together is this goes back to that day at the joust in season 1 where Alicent kind of likes him and he asks Rhaenyra for her favor.
Yeah.
These people are motivated, but these people are messed up people.
Yeah, no kidding.
They're like motivated because like there's a boy in junior high and Alicent saw her first, but he likes Rhaenyra. So now I'm going to like murder your child 20 years later. It's messed up. I love it. It's messed up and I love it. This is like a level of dysfunction.
You're right.
I think it's just as the story is as good as early Game of Thrones, but without all the raping. Far less rape in this than there was in Game of Thrones, and not as many people being killed, really. Yet, I'm looking forward to a lot of people being burnt alive by dragons in the
I was
coming
just going to
weeks.
say, there's lots of death coming.
Well, and there's also apparently, like according to Ark, there's a whole bunch of fun coming with Ulf White. I think that's what where Mark was into, was in regard to. But yeah. All right. I guess we got that covered.
Yes.
And that's our last show for the night. We're way over. We're way over our time limit.
We're not over. We're in our time frame that Roger gave us.
I know we have a lot of time that we're allowed to.
Well, we won't have this problem next week. I think we have 3 shows next week.
Yes, Dark Matter is over.
Interview's over.
Interview with the Vampire is over.
Yeah, we have 4 shows next week.
And so we'll drop back to a more manageable discussion of 4 shows before we grab the Ark and Snowpiercer later this month.
Yeah, it's gonna be about another 3 or 4 weeks before we add anything, unless Jamie's got some show that we should watch.
Well, it's 4th of July. We'll have to go to some barbecues and do some stuff this week. Sure. So we got a day off. It's nice to have a little less TV. Nobody watch TV on Wednesday. Go outside, have a barbecue, do whatever. Go to the pool. But we'll be back here with the other 4 shows that we covered tonight in a reasonable time. We have Lazarus next week. We've got Orphan Black, The Acolyte, House of the Dragon.
I hope Acolyte gets better, but I doubt it.
Well, we'll just cut down the amount of time we talk about it. And so I guess that's it. I guess any word on the forest scene? Oh, we didn't. Yeah, you mean that scene Arc where is it Leonor? Who is it that chases those guys on a dragon?
It was Baylor that was chasing them.
Baylor. That was Bela.
Close enough.
Right? It was a girl. I was afraid, Arc, when I saw that because I remembered when Rhaenyra said, "Go out, spy on them, don't engage, don't be in any danger, just report back to me." And that's exactly what the kid did, and I kind of wasn't sure. Like I thought, like young people flying dragons, nothing good can this is going to go bad, right? But she actually does what she's supposed to do.
Wow, that's only because she didn't catch them in time.
No, yeah.
If she got into them before they got in the forest, she's lighting them up.
Well, and it's been demonstrated that these kids maybe can't always stop their dragon from reacting, right? Like we saw, Aemon didn't intend for his dragon to attack, but he couldn't control that dragon. I think the real upshot of that scene is that Sir Gawain now has to concede and follow Kristen Cole. I mean, he was kind of a jerk. He's like, I'm not sleeping in a tent with you losers. I'm rich. I'm going to go sleep in a hotel. And Sir Kristen, in a rare moment of intelligence, is like, that's not a good idea. Why would you announce that we're here? And now, he has saved Dwayne, and it's put Allison's brother in a different footing with Kristen Cole.
I don't know that Cole saved him. I mean, he yelled dragon.
Okay.
Somebody.
Okay, because fair enough, Kristen Cole was standing right next to him and also could have been burned alive by a dragon. He was yelling it out to the entire gang, or what do you call it? They're not army, a troop, whatever. Yeah. But, okay, so maybe he gained a little respect from Gawain. Gawain is a little bit chastened. He's like, oh, thank you, Kristen Cole. I owe you one. Kind of, not his exact words, but I think it puts those two on a different footing than they were at the beginning of the episode, right?
The funny thing was, Gawain actually looked like he had fun outrunning a dragon.
Yeah, maybe the actor just couldn't contain himself on how cool it was going to be when he saw it on screen.
Maybe.
Right? Riding a fake horse, being chased by a fake dragon. But the main surprise for me was that Rhaenyra's daughter, that's actually not Rhaenyra's daughter, that's actually Daemon's daughter, wife, right? That's Daemon's, it's Rhaenyra's stepdaughter, who she seems to treat like their children, whether they believe it or not. But that she proved herself.
Art just nailed it. She's Daemon's kid. Of course, she's hot-tempered.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully a little bit of those what is the place where the sea captain, whatever their drift mark. Hopefully there's a little drift mark in her too. So all right,
All right, now
I think we got it all. Now we really got
now
it
I
all,
think we're
right?
anything else, Ark, that we forgot?
I love having Ark as our co-host in the chat.
I do too.
So all right. Well,
All right.
good night
Yeah.
tonight. Good long show. Thanks everybody for being with us. Thanks. I mean, we've got most of our folks are watching us from X tonight, from Twitter.
I think it's funny that we get everybody from Twitter every week. The one place they can't comment from.
Yeah, we got a couple on we got a person on Twitch actually, and we've got some people watching us from YouTube. And so thanks for joining us and chatting with us and watching all this good TV, because the more people watch it, the more it gets renewed. So, and thanks to Roger, right, and NDB Media for hosting us, and for our NDB hosts who are in the chat with us tonight. I keep trying to come to that. So NDB Media has a Monday night House of the Dragon review recap show. Ark, have you been to that show? I haven't been to it yet. I want to join. I think Roger hosts that show if people want to listen on Mondays. I haven't been there yet, but I hope to get in when I get my life together and make myself some time. But people might want to check out that show on Monday nights here on NDB.
Check out all the NDB Media shows here.
Yeah,
They're all good.
they're all good. So, all right, thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Good night, Ark. Good night, everybody else in the chat.
See you next
See
week.
you all next week.
Bye.